Welcome back to the channel. This is Trendy Storm and you are watching second and final part of What If Naruto was sent back in time by Kurama. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Not wasting no time, let's start the story.
Naruto and his group entered the building where the first test would be held and made their way to the room where the chunin exam's first section was to be administered. They encountered a group of chunin arguing with a group of genin for denying them entry to the room. After they arrived at the second floor, Naruto intervened to stop Sasuke from confronting them about negating the obvious genjutsu. Wait, let them keep it up. This will weed out some of the genin teams who really shouldn't be here. It'll be for their own good. In order to challenge Sasuke to a fight before the first part of the exam began, they walked past the second floor and up to the third, where Lee was waiting for Naruto and his group. Naruto ran toward the green spandex-clad ninja as soon as he saw him. "Hey there, Lee. What are you doing here? I thought for sure you would already be in the room with the others." As the dead last came toward him, Lee grinned. "Unfortunately, the rest of my team isn't here, and so I have been made to wait outside until they show up." Lee directed a glare at Sasuke, who gave him a stern look in return. "But I would like to challenge him to a friendly spar." Naruto was aware that Lee was determined to fight Sasuke. It was his opportunity to prove that he could succeed against people who were naturally gifted. Naruto was also aware that this would be crucial in demonstrating to Sasuke how much he could do to advance his taijutsu abilities. Sasuke took the initiative to respond to the challenge. "Move it, Dobi. If this weirdo wants a fight, I'll give him one." Naruto closed his eyes and scowled. "Sigh. Alright Teme, just don't come crying to me when you get your ass handed to you." Sasuke grinned. "Hey, in your dreams." Unfortunately for Sasuke, the spar proceeded exactly as it had in the past, and Lee, who had been holding back a lot, easily defeated him once more. Before Lee could carry out his devastating Konoha Senpu attack, Guy had arrived on his turtle. Sasuke returned to the team, trying to ignore Naruto's smirk as he looked shamefully at the ground. "Well, I must say that I just had one hell of a good dream." Sasuke gave his teammate a scowl. "Shut it." The three eventually arrived at their classroom following their meeting with Lee. Naruto hurried over to greet his newest friend as soon as he entered the room and saw Gaara and his group. As he got closer, he saw that Gaara appeared much calmer and that the bags under his eyes had almost disappeared, though he appeared somewhat robotic, as though he weren't the one moving. Gaara was the first to notice Naruto approaching. The Suna siblings were waved at by Naruto. "Hey guys, how's it going?" Gaara gave a very odd response. "Hello, Naruto-san, it's going well." At his reply, Temari snorted and glanced at Kankuro. "Well, he haven't been able to do anything the last few days cause Gaara here decided to sleep for 3.5 days straight. It has been boring as hell being cooped up in the damn apartment." Naruto rubbed the back of his head and laughed. "Well, I can only imagine how tired Gaara has been. I'm surprised he was able to get up and come here at all." It was Kankuro who snorted this time. He didn't. "What?" Across his chest, Kankuro folded his arms. "He isn't awake. I've been moving him with my chakra strings. He has been great to practice on thought. I've even managed to figure out how to use my chakra to vibrate his vocal cords and make him talk pretty sweet, huh?" Naruto averted his gaze. "Yeah, I guess so. Well, I better get back to my team. See you Temari and Kankuro. And Gaara, I guess tell him I said hi when he gets up." Temari chuckled. "That's if he gets up, right?" Naruto moved around the room, chatting with everyone he knew, including Team 10 and a few other genin that he had known since he was a young boy. He soon witnessed Haku enter the structure, causing some of the female genin in the room to sigh in admiration as they were mesmerized by his presence. "Hey Haku. How've you been? I heard that they started training you to be a medical nin because of your near-perfect chakra control." Haku grinned at his first true companion. "Hello Naruto-san. Yes, you are correct. I have been taught the basics of medical ninjutsu, but I still have a long way to go. Several of my senseis have told me that they haven't seen a level of chakra control in a ninja since the Sannin Tsunade, and they assure me that my skills will improve rapidly if I apply myself." Haku received a shoulder pat from Naruto. "Well, that's great news. I'm glad that things are going great for you. So have you been given any trouble from any of the civilians or shinobi? I know they aren't the most accepting of foreign shinobi, and if you have any trouble just come get me." Haku gave a nod. "Thank you Naruto-san for your consideration, and I have had some altercations with some of Konoha's populace, but it isn't for the reason you have stated. A few of the female shinobi and even several of the civilians seem to be infatuated with my being, though I don't understand why, as I have done nothing to encourage such advances." "Ha ha ha ha. Those are just girls being girls. That kind of stuff happens. You should have seen Sasuke Teme in the academy. Don't worry too much about it, they will go away, eventually anyway. I gotta get going. I want to talk to Hina-chan before the exam starts. Haku cocked his head sideways. Who? Naruto palmed his face. He chose to explain her relationship with Naruto in a way that Haku could comprehend, saying, "Oh, wow. I can't believe I haven't introduced you to Hina-chan. She is someone who is very close to me, someone that I would lay my life down to protect." I see. Well, I look forward to meeting this person. Good luck, Naruto-san. You too, Haku. Kiba deliberately positioned himself between Naruto and his female teammate when he approached Team 8. Great, there goes my good mood. I guess I'll have to be the bigger person here because I can't act like a jerk in front of Hina-chan. Kiba scowled at Naruto, not wanting to give him the opportunity to speak with Hinata, and trying to sound as contemptuous as possible. What are you doing here, loser? Naruto attempted to survey the Inuzuka. Well, I am trying to see Hinaheim. Now if you don't mind, I would like to talk to her before the test begins. At his answer, Kiba snorted, I didn't mean what are you doing over here, I mean what are you doing in this test. This is only for people with a chance of becoming chunin. Sasuke is the only one of your team who has a shot in hell of passing this thing. Losers like you should just get out before you get hurt. Naruto let out a sigh. I don't know why you hate me so much, Kiba. Naruto leaned over to face Hinata. Naruto shoved past Kiba and spoke directly to Hinata, saying, well, I guess I do, but just because there is someone you can't have doesn't mean you have to have so much hatred towards me. Sorry, Hina-chan. I guess I'm not welcome here. I should get back to my team before he creates a scene. Hinata gave the blonde a smile. Okay, Naruto-kun. I will see you in a bit, good luck. After leaning in to kiss her briefly, Naruto was nearly delighted to turn around and see Kiba flushed with rage. Thanks, Hinaheim. Good luck to you too. I know you will do well, just have confidence. After hearing Kiba's final remark, Naruto turned to leave and started to return to his team, but he was stopped. Neji was right, she is a damn fox whore. In his place, Naruto froze indeed. He had grown accustomed to being called any name he could think of. He had to endure it again as he grew up a second time because he had grown up with the villagers' hatred overall. He could handle it pretty well, however. He couldn't tolerate it when someone approached someone he cared about, particularly if that person was as close to him as Hinata was. Naruto emitted enough murderous intent to paralyze everyone present. Kiba was stunned and had never felt so terrified in his life as he did at that moment. The alleged loser of his class had been able to aim a deadly intent at him, something he had never experienced before. Even those who had been genin for years were terrified of the person in front of them, and all eyes were on Naruto, who was still radiating a deadly intent and had their breath stuck in their throats, fearing for their lives and trying to keep their pants dry. The genin who had not been shinobi for a long time were sweating profusely. Kiba, for your sake, I hope we are not paired against each other. If there is a fighting portion to this test, if there is, I will come at you with everything I have. I will drag your face through the mud, and when I am through with you I will drag you back to Hinata to apologize for the comment you just made. Naruto approached his group and sat down to start suppressing his desire to kill. Everybody in the room continued to watch him, trying to keep their eyes off of him. Neji, Ten, and Lee entered the room just as everyone had calmed down, only to discover that everyone was still silent and gazing at Naruto with a certain level of fear in their eyes. As someone who detests silence, Lee chose to ask Sakura about the situation in the room. Sakura-chan, why is everyone so quiet in here? It's as if they saw a ghost or something. Kabuto, dressed as Konoha, came up and answered for Sakura before she could respond to his question. Blondie over there decided to show off and scare everyone with some theatrics. If I were on his team, I would be pretty upset cause now everyone will be gunning for him, trying to see if he can back up his killing intent he released not too long ago. Sakura looked at the boy with the silver hair. And who are you, Four Eyes? I don't seem to recall seeing you around, even though you are a Konoha non? Kabuto bowed. My name is Yakushi Kabuto, and I am mostly in the hospitals learning medical ninjutsu, which is why you don't see me around much. Neji was the one who spoke this time. So, you are a medic nin? That means you have to have perfect chakra control. Do you have any other talents? Kabuto grinned in response to Neji's plea. Yes, I happen to have information cards on each participant here, and if you ask nicely I might just let you see a few. Lee wasn't about to ask, but Neji's eyes narrowed, clearly not wanting to bring himself to be humble. Please, Kabuto-san, may we see information on Uchiha Sasuke, Sabaku no Gaara, and Uzumaki Naruto? Wondering what Kabuto might know about him, Sasuke listened intently. HMPF, it's good to see that at least someone on your team has some manners anyway. First up is Uchiha Sasuke. Age 13, male sole survivor of the Uchiha clan, famous for the Dojutsu Sharingan and possessing the Kaden Elemental Affinity Taijutsu capabilities, mid-level Chunin Ninjutsu capabilities, high-level Chunin Genjutsu capabilities, Low-level chunin specific jutsu unknown. Sasuke's face was a smirk of satisfaction. All right, that sounds about right. I refuse to accept these pitiful justifications for shinobi. Next up is Sabaku no Gara, age 14, male youngest child of the Yondaime Keisukage Taijutsu, Ninjutsu, and Genjutsu capabilities are all unknown. When Kabuto's lack of information was revealed, everyone thought, well, that was pretty anticlimactic. Last up is Uzumaki Naruto, well there doesn't seem to be anything here on him. Neji frowned disapprovingly. I thought you said you had information on each participant here? You don't even have any information on him at all besides his name? Kabuto laughed. Well, usually their records are open for other people to see in Naruto's case. This means that someone very high up is making sure that his files aren't made known. Wondering who would pull such strings and why, everyone turned to stare at the blonde in the middle. Well, I don't think they would be very happy if they knew that I could fight a cage right now. When they realize how weak they truly are, few are. Well said. A group of Auto Nin entered the room and interrupted Naruto. One of them charged at Kabuto and punched him in the face. After spotting Naruto and his group, Kabuto was able to avoid it with ease, but when his head began to hurt and he puked on the ground, he fell to his knees. Naruto laughed, relieved that nothing had changed. He deserves so much worse for what he did to my world. You'll be able to stop him much sooner, Naruto, so don't worry. We returned in large part because of his Edo Tensei. I understand, but it still amazes me that he can enter here so casually and be accountable for so many fatalities when the invasion begins. I can't wait to see his reaction. Me too. It appears that the test is about to begin, so you should get back to it now. The room was filled with a surge of chakra, and Ibiki emerged in a cloud of smoke. Hey, you Auto Nins, if I catch you engaging other genin teams outside of the allotted battle times, I will fail you on the spot. Am I clear? There was silence in the room. No one dared to anger the stone-faced man. Good, now get your asses into your seats. I don't want to be here any longer than I have to. Okay, listen up, because I'm only going to say this once. The first stage of the chunin exam is a written test composed of 10 questions that you have 1 hour to complete. You'll find 9 of them on the test that will be passed out by my chunin assistants. The 10th will be given to you when there is only 15 minutes left. Your team's scores will be averaged after the test is completed to determine if your team passes. The only thing left to cover is cheating, and if you look around the room, you will see Konoha chunin that I have personally handpicked. They all have sharp eyes, and will be watching you all very carefully to check for cheating. As he was speaking, a few of the chunin assistants were distributing tests throughout the room. You have 1 hour to complete the test, beginning now, Ibiki said as he waited for them to finish. Many of the genin in the room went pale, clearly intimidated, and Naruto watched with amusement. He was happy that he was able to respond to every question on his test this time around. When Naruto realized that he would have to express his gratitude to Kurama for his early guidance, he moaned. Let's just get this over with. Aw crap, if I tell Kurama that I'm glad he made me study my ass off, he would never let me live it down. 3 people would soon leave the room after the chunin around it threw a kunai at one of the genin's desks every few minutes, indicating that they had failed the test. Naruto completed his 9th question 30 minutes later. Certain of his responses, he looked around and saw that the room was now empty in about half. He witnessed Sakura frantically completing her test and Sasuke using his Sharingan to elicit answers from the genin nearby. 15 minutes later, Ibiki spoke to the group once more. 45 minutes are up. Now, before I give the last question, I will give you all a choice. If you want to leave, now is your chance. If you don't answer this 10th question correctly, not only will you and your team fail, but you will also be barred from being able to take this test ever again. Looking around the room, Ibiki noticed more people getting up and leaving, which made him smirk. After a few minutes, he waited for everyone who was leaving to leave the room. He asked them the final question when no one else seemed to be giving up. Well, since you are all so confident in your abilities to pass this question, then I guess you all pass. A few cries of incredulity were heard, but they were quickly cut off when the second proctor arrived. Half of the genin jumped from their seats as Anko blasted through the window. She sighed slightly when she realized how many genin were still alive. Seems to be quite a few more genin this year. Ibiki, I guess you just aren't as scary as you were. I hear that it's the first stage of going senile. You should really go get checked. Ibiki hurled a kunai at the woman with the purple hair, but she effortlessly sidestepped it. Shut it, Anko. There just seems to be more talent this year than there has been the past few years. To Naruto's annoyance, Anko ignored him entirely and glanced between Neji and Sasuke. Yeah, I guess you might be right anyway. By the time I'm done with them, there won't be more than half this number. You brats, follow me. Without waiting to see if the genin were pursuing, Anko leapt out the window. A number of the genin couldn't keep up with her rapid pace. She ran for about 15 minutes before coming to a stop in front of a big fence that was surrounded by warning signs. The forest beyond the fence was ominous, with the trees themselves appearing to be dangerous. After landing a few seconds behind her, the group waited for her to explain their goal to everyone. Okay, this is training ground 44, but is better known as the Forest of Death. It's where your second exam is going to take place, so I hope you like what you see. You're going to be in there for a 5-day survival exercise. 5 days, Naruto said, turning to observe Choji perspiring. What are we supposed to do for food? Anko chuckled heartily. She reached into her trench coat and took out 2 scrolls, one with the kanji for heaven and the other with the kanji for earth. This is a forest. Kill something or forage, there's plenty of food in there. Same goes for you all though, some of the beasts in that place can get pretty big, and we don't exactly feed them. Anyways, these are what you all will be after. Before the exam begins, each team will be given one of these 2 scrolls and assigned a gate where they will start off from. The Forest of Death is a perfect circle, with gates evenly spaced at the perimeter and a tower in the center. Once the exam begins, you will have 5 days to acquire the scroll your team doesn't have and make your way to the tower in the center of the forest. You can't open the scrolls until you have arrived at the tower with both of them in your possession, so even if you manage to make it to the tower in one piece, you will fail if you don't have the scrolls. Once you get into the forest, it'll turn into a free-for-all between the teams. You can use any jutsu or trick you have at your disposal and may use any amount of force you like. I just want you all to know that killing is allowed, though it is discouraged, so don't enter this forest unless you are absolutely confident in your abilities. While she was talking, she noticed that Naruto appeared far too composed, almost bored. After finishing the explanation, her eyes narrowed, and she hurled a kunai at Naruto's cheek as fast as she could, hoping to frighten the genin as much as possible. Naruto swiftly sidestepped the kunai that was thrown at his cheek by turning his head slightly to the side when he heard the familiar sound of metal clinking together. He inserted his finger through the kunai's handle hole, caught it, and spun it around his finger as it flew by his face. As Anko shunshined behind him, he grabbed the kunai backwards in time to aim it at her midsection. Everyone in the vicinity was obviously in disbelief. They couldn't comprehend how nimble a genin had been to completely surprise their chunin instructor. Naruto grinned. Anko-san, that wasn't very nice. What if I had dodged the other way? No part of your explanation did you say that we would have to face our own instructors? There was an odd sparkle in Anko's eyes. Very good, Naruto-kun, I'm impressed with your speed, but it will take more than that to survive in this forest. Naruto chuckled. Don't worry, I have much more up my sleeve. Anko returned to her starting point before continuing. Well, in addition to everything I just said, I need everyone here to fill out a waiver. The purple-haired woman had said enough for everyone to stop questioning her. An hour or so later, everyone was positioned with their respective scroll, prepared to begin the exam's second section. Team 7 was taken aback when Haku came up to them and told them that the Hokage had specifically ordered him to be placed on the team for this section of the test. Naruto's eyebrow went up. Haku, are you on our team for this portion of the exam? The male effeminate nodded. Yes, Naruto-san. The Hokage has deemed it necessary to put me with another team, and since your team is the only one I have had any sort of contact with, your team was the only choice left. I will do my best to incorporate my skills into your group dynamic, and will harmonize my long-range senbon attacks with your group's battle strategy. Naruto smiled. Sounds like this exam just got a lot more fun. I look forward to see what you learned. Well, let's go to our gate then. When a loud siren sounded to announce the start of the test, Naruto's group hurried inside, excited. The most significant thing I will need to alter in the coming days is that Sasuke might realize he doesn't have to travel to Orochimaru. If I can assist him in avoiding the curse seal before his hatred consumes him, I might be able to rescue him. Don't have high expectations. He is just as obstinate as you are. I wouldn't object if you killed Orochimaru, but that is easier said than done. That is the only way your plan will succeed. Kurama, don't undervalue me. A few hours later, after successfully making their way into the forest, Naruto and his group had to set up camp for the night. Although Naruto secretly created a cage bunchen to ensure nothing happened, and to his relief, nothing did. The four took turns with the guard shift for the next few days. Naruto would create a few 3-man cells of cage bunchen and henge them into other groups of shinobi, giving them enough chakra to withstand being struck if needed, in an attempt to test his team's ability to cooperate. Sasuke would charge in first, blaring his Sharingan and employing multiple Kaiden jutsu. As Naruto had predicted, Naruto invested a lot of chakra into each clone, which allowed them to deal with Sasuke with ease. Sasuke quickly retreated, and eventually the four started to function as a single unit to handle each bunchen, knowing his team wouldn't be pleased if they discovered they were up against Naruto's cage bunchens. Naruto took care to ensure they only fought to a draw. Sakura was able to demonstrate to Sasuke her immense increase in speed and raw physical strength by using her speed to get behind the clone and prepare to hit its chest with full force. She nearly dispelled one of the buncheons, but she was caught in one of the branches before she could make the hit. Sasuke, however, was in complete awe of his teammate's strength and was wide-eyed. As promised, Haku skillfully incorporated his presence into the dynamic of the group with his longer-ranged attacks. He supplemented the other three's methods and gave them the necessary cover to bring them all within striking range. Haku's pinpoint accuracy, which was augmented by his in-depth understanding of human anatomy, was a little challenging for Naruto's buncheons to avoid. Naruto was generally quite happy with the advancements his countrymen were making. Given all of the extra training sessions from Kakashi, Sasuke was far more capable at the time than he was when Naruto was alive. Because she was attempting to demonstrate her abilities as a potential wife rather than impress Sasuke with her appearance, Sakura was far stronger than she had ever been before becoming Tsunade's apprentice. Because of his early demise during Naruto's lifetime, Haku was a mystery based on what Naruto could piece together. Haku would end up being a valuable Konoha shinobi naturally. Naruto didn't show off his full strength and took care to strengthen his body's gravity seals to control his movements. In other parts of the forest, the AIM ninja who had imprisoned him and his group in sand cocoons begged the little reed head, "Please, just let us go, don't kill us. It was never my intention to kill you. That side of me has been sealed away. I will simply take your scroll and render you unconscious. Lucky for you, someone has shown me that there is another way to live besides being a machine of death." The three AIM shinobi were then rendered unconscious by Gaara's quick blow to the base of the neck with a sand whip. Then, before turning to his siblings, he took out their scroll and tucked it inside his shirt. "Temari, Kankuro, let's go. I don't desire to be in this forest any longer than necessary." In order to get into the tower, the three of them set off for the center of the forest. Kiba emerged from behind some bushes into the clearing as they were about to leave. "Damn, I would have loved to fight them. I could have taken them easy." The second person out of the bushes was Shino. "Kiba, I doubt you have managed to land even a single hit. Those three are probably only genin because their village has deemed it necessary to hinder their promotions. They could easily be junin should they choose you. False bravado will get us into altercations if you don't keep it under control." Kiba glared at his teammate who wore spectacles. "What was that? 4 eyes? If you want to fight me so much, just tell me when and where." Then, frustrated by her noisy teammate, Hinata walked out of the bushes. "Kiba, Shino is right. We wouldn't have stood a chance. We should leave before those three wake up though. I doubt we want to be here when they do." In other parts of the forest, as part of his ambitious plan to have Sasuke abandon Konoha, Orochimaru ran through the forest with the goal of locating him and giving him the cursed seal. He had been attempting to fix Sasuke's chakra signature for the first few days, but it had taken him longer than he had expected, particularly when a few Konoha genin chose to obstruct his progress. Orochimaru was furious that he was so far behind schedule, even though they were dealt with swiftly. However, seeing Naruto standing on a branch, apparently waiting for the snake sign, cheered him up. "Why hello there, Naruto-kun, what are you doing out so far by yourself? You should know better than that. After all, there are dangerous people in this forest." Angrily, Naruto gritted his teeth. "Put a sock in it, snake bastard. You make me sick. Preying on children to fulfill your own vile fetishes. Has it ever occurred to you that Sasuke has already had enough darkness in his life? The last thing he needs is some pervert trying to use him for his own selfish gains?" Orochimaru's face was twisted in rage. Despite his ability to control his temper, he was unable to resist giving in to Naruto's provocation. Orochimaru ran at Naruto, extending his snake-like neck to bite him in the neck, attempting to sever his brainstem. "You know an awful lot for some genin. More than I can allow you to. I was only going to rough you up a bit, but now," he yelled, "I'll kill you." Orochimaru dispelled the cage buncheon, but all he hit was smoke when his teeth dug into Naruto's neck. "Damn that brat, it'll make him suffer." Returning to Team 7. As he regained all of his memories of cage buncheon, Naruto grimaced, wanting to at least alert his team to the danger. He shouted for them to stop right away. "Guys, there is a very dangerous shinobi approaching us. Fast, he is way above Junin level, so we can't beat him. He would tear us apart. His main target is Sasuke. He wants to put something called a curse seal on you which will sap your self-control, rendering you no more than a puppet to this guy. We can however lure him into a trap, but it would have to be very well laid out." Sasuke glanced at his colleague. "How do you know how strong this guy is and what he plans to do?" "Because my cage buncheon just fought him, and he didn't even get a chance to attack, though he was a bit loose with his information." Sakura and Haku listened to Naruto without as much hesitation. "Well, what do you think we should do?" Naruto grinned. "Sasuke, I want you to stay back with Haku and use you long-ranged Kaden Jutsu Sakura, and I will do our best to deal with him. I close quarters combat. We will lure him in to get the element of surprise. If my guess is right, he will be here in a little less than a minute, so we have to hurry. Sasuke let out a sigh. Dobi. The only reason I will go along with this is because I don't like the idea of someone controlling me, so don't let this go to your head. Hey, works for me. Returning to Orochimaru. Damn it. Where did they go? I know I felt their chakra here. They couldn't have been able to escape that quickly. It's all that damn brat's fault. When I get my hands on him all. Naruto responded to his tirade with a full-strength punch. Orochimaru was taken aback by the fact that he had no sense of Naruto. Naruto delivered a vicious blow that sent him flying to the ground. To cope with the discomfort, Orochimaru shook his head. I would have been dead on the spot if I hadn't turned my head in response to the punch, which was far more powerful than anything a genin could muster. That blow was more powerful than Tsunade was when she was at her best. What on earth is happening here? Orochimaru crashed into a tree after being kicked in the back. Just as he was about to hit the ground, he noticed Sakura had already retreated into the canopy. When he looked up, but before she could conceal herself, Orochimaru noticed a seal on her stomach. That's their secret. Then they're concealing themselves from me with seals. Who among them uses Fuinjutsu? I wonder. That brat must be the cause. His devastating punches would definitely explain it. In any case, I will complete my task. In order to dodge a huge Kaden. Gokaku no Jutsu, Fire Release. Grand Fireball Technique. Orochimaru leapt from his position. He twisted his body in midair to dodge a flurry of ice senbon needles that were aimed at his pressure points. I find these brats hilarious. After landing upside down on a branch, Orochimaru started searching for his victim. He chose to play with them for a little while before killing Naruto. Twisting his body around to block a flurry of Naruto and Sakura's blows, another set of ice needles forced Orochimaru to jump from the branch after he had knocked Sakura and Naruto to the ground. Soon after, Naruto and Sakura attacked him once more, and they engaged in combat for a short while. Haku had created multiple openings for Naruto and Sakura by successfully throwing ice senbon at Orochimaru through their opening. Sasuke's Kaden. Hosenka no Jutsu. Fire Release. Art of the Phoenix Flower, attacked Orochimaru as he disengaged, forcing him to the ground to dodge the flying fireballs. Orochimaru grinned. Your little tricks won't work on me. You all would need another 10 years of training to even hope to fight me for real. Naruto smirked broadly as he landed in front of him. Is that right? Well, unfortunately for you, you have already been caught in my trap. Then, during their brief meeting, Naruto placed seals on Orochimaru and channeled chakra into them with his fingers. He was essentially rooted in place, and Orochimaru cursed as his legs became fixed to the ground. Sasuke. Now. Kaden. Karyu Enden. Fire Release. Fire Dragon Flame Bullet. Orochimaru yelled as he observed his main target sitting on a tree branch, taking a deep breath. As they watched Orochimaru burn alive, Team 7 noticed a burned body on the ground. As the fire went out, Sasuke went to check if the shinobi was truly dead, but Orochimaru jumped out of the ground, swung his head forward from his body, and bit Sasuke in the neck as he got close. However, Orochimaru was taken aback when Sasuke simply grinned at the snake Sanin instead of yelling in agony as the henge vanished and a Naruto cage Bunshin replaced it. Game over. Orochimaru. The team had to leap back from the shockwave as the Bunshin exploded with a huge explosion. Orochimaru was not as fortunate this time to avoid the explosion, and even though he was unharmed, he had no desire to continue the battle. His legs still hurt from the seals, and his arms and legs were slightly burned. He turned to Sasuke and said, "Consider yourself lucky, brats. You get to live a little longer. Your talents are wasted on this pathetic excuse for a village. If you desire more power, you should seek me out. I can give you all the power you would ever want." Naruto exhaled in relief, pleased with his performance in defeating the snake Sanin this time. As Orochimaru vanished in a gust of smoke and leaves, he glanced at his group and saw how tired they were as they all fell to the ground. I don't think I've ever used so many intense Kaden jutsus in succession like that. I feel like my lungs are on fire. Plus it didn't help that I had to have my Sharingan active the whole time. Sasuke managed to say in his pants. Haku slumped against one of the trees. I too have never had to form so many ice needles before. It wouldn't have been so hard if we were near a source of water, but are here in the woods. It consumes a lot more chakra than I would like. Sakura glanced at her wrists and ankles. Maybe I should have taken off my weights? I might have been able to go faster and might have been able to land some hits. Sasuke and Haku stared at Sakura in shock. They had no idea that she was being weighted down because she was moving so fast during the battle. Then they all turned to see Naruto, who had remained calm throughout the entire confrontation. Naruto gave a headshake. Naruto turned to the other members of his team and said, "No, Sakura, You should leave those on until you are sure there is no other chance at victory. Surprise is a shinobi's greatest asset. Guys, that was great. I don't think he ever expected us to be able to put up that kind of fight. I think we should rest here for tonight though. We probably won't be able to cover much ground anyways with how tired we all are right now. They set up camp with Naruto taking the first guard shift because no one had the energy to complain. If I'm correct, the Auto Nins will attack tonight. They are all too exhausted to fight much, so I can't let them get close to the others while I deal with the Auto Nins. I might as well create a cage bunshin. Naruto soon discovered the shinobi he was searching for, the same ones who had attacked Kabuto in the first section of the test. After leaving his camp, a kunoichi with very long black hair and no other obvious changes, a boy with tubes coming out of his hands that were likely surgically implanted, and a hunchback boy with his face completely covered in wrappings were the last three. Zaku, the boy with the tubes, was the first to speak. Well, it looks like one of their group got a little separated. Too bad for you, but hey, we can work something out if you tell us where Uchiha Sasuke is. We will only beat you severely instead of killing you. Not a bad deal if you ask me. How about it? Naruto laughed. I think that you sound too similar to your traitor of a master. I would never sell my teammates out, even if it means I have to lay down my own life. Zaku aimed a highly compressed stream of air at Naruto with the intention of pushing him into the ground because this wasn't the response he was seeking. He was caught off guard when Naruto suddenly appeared behind him and quickly chopped him in the back of the head, knocking him unconscious. Naruto looked at the two others. One down, two to go now. I think it's my turn to offer a deal. Give me the Earth Scroll, and you can take your teammate here and leave. The boy with the bandages appeared to be carefully considering the recently proposed deal while glancing back and forth between Zaku and Naruto. However, despite Naruto's apparent skill, his female teammate chose to charge right in. She ran toward Naruto and swung her fist in Naruto's face. Stupid brat. I'll teach you to underestimate Otogakure. Her fist struck the air, and as she looked down, Naruto delivered a huge uppercut to her jaw to make sure he knocked her out. Naruto made sure to infuse chakra into his fist. She collapsed to her knees and then hit the ground, unconscious. Naruto turned to face the last person standing, Dosu. My offer is still on the table. We don't have to fight, you know. I don't have anything against you or your team. Dosu glanced back at Naruto. After glancing at his teammates, Dosu knew that he would never be able to defeat Naruto one-on-one because, as far as he could tell, Naruto had not even started to display a single ounce of his actual strength before approaching to tend to his unconscious teammates. He carefully removed a scroll from his robes and hurled it at Naruto. Take it, we have plenty. Don't think that we will let you get away with humiliating us like this. Dosu swiftly vanished as he fled in a sunshine, making his way to the tower to rescue his group, not wanting to deal with a couple of angry Auto Nin. Naruto sighed after turning around. Naruto made his way back to his team, who were still sleeping. They all woke up a few hours later, feeling a little worn out but still capable of carrying on rather than simply claiming to have found the scroll. Naruto needed to devise a strategy that his team could purchase to justify obtaining it. As soon as Sasuke left the cave, one of Naruto's cage bunshins hanged as Dosu threw him to the ground. Other bunshins hanged as Kin and Zaku emerged at the front of the cave to separate Sasuke and Dosu. Naruto waited for everyone to gather their belongings. Sakura hurried at Kin, avoiding Kin's own Senbon onslaught, while Haku hurled ice Senbon needles at Zaku. Rushing between them, Naruto kicked Sasuke's Dosu. Dosu was certain that the kick had thrown the scroll from his jacket and caused it to fall to the ground, and the bunshin hanged when Sasuke stood up. He watched in awe as Sakura delivered a powerful punch to Kin that sent him flying through the air after Dosu. Haku had succeeded in striking Zaku with some of the Senbon needles, but Zaku ensured that the needles only struck areas that would not disturb the henge or the cage bunshin. When Dosu was well again, he stood up and did his best to look hurt. Damn you. Mark my words, Konoha brats, Otogakure will show you all what true power is. At what he said, Sasuke snorted. If what you three have is what you call true power, then Otogakure must be a miserable failure of a village. Hearing Sasuke's words made Naruto very happy, and he was proud of himself for accomplishing two goals at once. Naruto intervened just as Team 7 was ready to pursue Dosu and his group. Wait, we already have their scroll. We should go to the tower before we run into another group. They might all not be as weak as those three were. Haku gave a nod of agreement. Naruto-san is right. The most intelligent decision right now would be to rest at the tower and wait for this phase of the exam to end. We are all still tired, and we need to be at full strength in order to have the best chance of passing the next phase. Everyone in the group agreed, and Naruto led the way as they hurried to the tower, not wanting to take the chance of a confrontation. Naruto took great care to steer them away from any other group. They reached the tower. After several hours of jumping through the trees, they entered and unfolded the scrolls. Iruka emerged in front of them following a momentary chakra surge. Congratulations Team 7. You have cleared the first part of the second stage of the chunin exams. You still have 32 hours left before the 5-day time limit expires, so you may rest, eat, or train as you see fit now that introductions are out of the way. Great job guys. I'm surprised you guys were able to make it here, especially with Naruto being a part of your team. Naruto's expression was blank. Thanks Iruka-sensei, that makes me feel real good about myself. Iruka gave Naruto a firm embrace after waiting for the other members of his team to depart. I was kidding, and you know it, I was worried about you guys. It isn't uncommon for genin to die during this section of the exams. Naruto laughed. Well, I guess I'm not your average genin then. Iruka pulled away from the embrace and got back up. I guess you aren't well. Like I said, you should take this time to rest and get something wholesome to eat. You still have plenty of time before we have to start the next part of the exams. Don't worry, I will. Naruto started to move around the tower and speak with the various teams that had arrived after Iruka left him to go help with exam preparation for the next phase. He was pleased to hear that Gaara had resisted the urge to murder the AIM Nin group when he met up with him and his team. Naruto returned to his own team after speaking with a few of the other teams. The team he was searching for was Team 8, which he was unable to locate. He wanted to see Hinata, but he didn't want to deal with Kiba any more than necessary. Team 7 had just finished a quick nap when Naruto entered. Hey guys. Feeling better? Everyone asked, staring up at him in bewilderment. What? The first person to respond was Haku. Well, we were talking and we were worried about your health. You haven't slept since before our encounter with that Kusa-nin, and you have barely eaten anything. Naruto became apprehensive. That isn't true. I have a stash of soldier pills that have kept me going. Not to mention that my stamina is practically my only strength, so don't worry about me. I was actually coming up here to grab a bite to eat. Naruto cursed himself in his head. Damn it. How could I have acted with such recklessness? I need to exercise more caution because genin aren't supposed to know how to transform chakra to sustain their bodies for extended periods of time. Naruto wanted to quickly shift the topic. Hey guys, after I'm done, let's say we go train for a bit? Naruto expected Sasuke to seize the opportunity right away. Haku and Sakura nodded in agreement. I'll go. I don't feel that I got enough out of that forest in terms of progress, so I guess this can make up for it. Perfect. An hour later, Team 7 was in one of the tower's numerous training areas. Naruto drew Sakura away from the group while Haku and Sasuke were engaged in a duel. Naturally, Sakura became agitated. What do you want, Naruto? This is one of my chances to show Sasuke how strong I've become. Naruto gave an eye roll. Sakura instantly fell silent and started paying close attention when he said, just listen to me, this is going to help you on that front. Now that I have your attention, I want to ask you how your chakra control exercises are coming along. I've mastered the leaf exercise, and I can hold at least 5 leaves at the same time for about an hour. Naruto grinned. Good, well, now I think you are ready to take your training to the next step. Sakura cocked her head, perplexed. What do you mean? Naruto grinned. Naruto gathered a significant amount of chakra in his index finger and raised it to Sakura's forehead, saying, it'll be easier to show you, just don't move. With a flick of his finger, he interrupted her before she could ask him what he was doing. Haku and Sasuke were taken aback by the chakra-enhanced flick, which caused her to stumble back a few yards from her previous position. However, they quickly resumed their spar. Sakura got herself off the ground. Sakura didn't finish her tirade because she understood what Naruto was trying to say. What the hell was that for? It felt like I was hit by a... She now realized why Naruto had required her to train so hard in fundamental strength training and chakra control in just retaliation. She approached Naruto once more and struck him outside the head. So, I get how I'm supposed to gather chakra in my limbs before I strike, but my question is, how were you able to do it? For you to hit me with your index finger and send me flying, it must mean that your control is better than mine, so tell me, who taught you? Naruto gave a headshake. Sakura, you have 2 options. I could tell you what you want to know, but by doing so I would never train you from that moment forward, or you could accept the fact that I know what I know without any questions and I will train you in what I know. Those are your 2 options. Which is it? Sakura gave him a long look, but she was aware of the obvious decision. Sigh. Fine, I won't ask any more questions, just tell me how to do what you just did. Naruto grinned. Glad to hear it. Anyway, this is going to take a while and the chakra consumption is pretty hefty, so I don't suggest you use this technique anytime soon, though due to your excellent chakra control you should have the basics down before the next part of the exam. Sakura gave an understanding nod. Anyway, let's get started. At the entrance to the tower, with only 4 hours remaining, Team 8 barely made the time limit as they made their way to the base of the tower. Their group had encountered difficulties acquiring a collection of scrolls. They had succeeded in obtaining the scrolls, but early on the second day of the test, one of their more brazen teammates lost them because he made it a point to challenge every team they encountered. They were only now making their way back to the tower after it had taken them an additional 2 days to retrieve the scrolls. The team moved in silently, and anyone walking by could see that the person with the red facial markings was the target of a great deal of ire. Before Shino turned to Kiba, the group had just completed calling forth their chunin and were ready to part ways. I will say this only once, so you had better listen well to me, Kiba. In the future, if your actions once again put the rest of our team at risk, I will treat it as an act of desertion towards our team and will respond with due force. You would do well to heed this warning, since there will only be this one. Then Shino pivoted on his heel and started down one of the numerous corridors that wound through the enormous tower. Kiba remained silent and opened his mouth to speak to his female teammate, but she turned to face him as well. I'm sorry, Kiba, but I agree with Shino-san. She then vanished as well, leaving Kiba to consider what they had said. Hey, they can try, but they both know that in a one-on-one I can take them both. Shino's damn bugs can't zap my chakra too well when I'm merged with Orochimaru and Hinata. Well, it shouldn't be too much trouble to get past her defenses. Guess I'll go get ready for the next test. A few hours later, all of the teams that successfully completed the second part of the chunin exams were gathered by the Hokage, although he gave all the genin one final opportunity to withdraw from the matches, which Kabuto chose not to do this time. He explained that the number of participants was still too high and that they had to hold a round of preliminary matches in order to reduce the number in half. I wonder who he will face in the matchup, Naruto thought. That should be an interesting fight. Following explanations, every genin who planned to take part ascended to the balcony with a view of the spacious area where they would be sparring. Naruto saw Hinata running toward him as he and his group ascended to the balcony. Although he was happy to see her, he was also sad because he didn't want her to suffer any harm. Hinata embraced Naruto tightly when she arrived at their group, and they shared a passionate kiss. A short while later, Sakura gave them a worthy smile, while Sasuke turned his back on them as a blush of embarrassment appeared on his face. Naruto decided that now would be the best time to meet Hinata, as he had promised Haku. Haku, this is Hinata, she is my, girlfriend. I will never get used to saying that, no matter what. Haku went up to the girl who was still holding Naruto. Hello, my name is Haku. It is an honor to meet you. I have devoted my existence to repay Naruto-san for giving me another chance to live for something. I will therefore protect those that are precious to him, and by extension that includes you. With a clumsy nod, the young Hyuga released her hold. Thank you, Haku-san, it's good to meet you too. The proctor, Hayate, entered the room after the teams had taken their positions and started going over the rules with the spars. The bouts would go on until one competitor gave up or the proctor decided they couldn't go on. Everyone was annoyed by his frequent coughing fits that broke up his explanations. After a while, a big screen came on, and a random draw was used to determine the matches. The names of Haku versus Akado Yoroy appeared on the screen. After saying a few encouraging words to his friend, Naruto leapt to the ground, where his opponent was already waiting. Hayate bided his time until both combatants were positioned. Ready? Begin? Yoroy hurried past Haku and positioned himself behind him. Rather than waiting for him to initiate contact, he succeeded in placing Haku in a headlock. Ha ha ha. What a pathetic excuse for a genin. This will be over in just a few seconds, so just sit tight while I suck your chakra dry. Don't worry though, it won't hurt too. As the object he was holding started to dissolve into a big pool of water, Yoroy turned to face it. Is that a Mizu Bunshin? Water clone. The real one is where? Before Yoroy could even reach Haku, he felt multiple senbons dig into his back and strike pressure points on his spine, knocking him unconscious before he even hit the floor. With the exception of Naruto, the rest of the audience stared in disbelief at how easily a genin had defeated his opponent in such a lopsided battle. A few seconds later, Hayate announced the match between his coughing fits, breaking the silence. Winner. Haku. Will the medic team please retrieve Akado Yoroy, and can Haku please return to the balcony while the computer declares the next match? After watching the names flash across the screen once more, the room finally decided on Tsurugi Masumi versus Kankuro. As he watched the match unfold in the same way as it had the first time, a certain blonde shinobi mused to himself, well, at least this match is the same. Tsurugi tried to wrap his arms around Kankuro at the beginning, then broke Kankuro's neck after jumping off the back of his puppet and using it to break Tsurugi's bones. Kankuro once more made himself known, a cruel, but effective, method of winning the match. Winner. Kankuro. Can a medic team please retrieve Tsurugi Masumi and take him for emergency treatment? The computer flashed into existence once more after the broken genin was recovered, and then the names of Nara Shikamaru and Tsuchi Kin appeared on the screen in order to distract Shikamaru and attack him from behind. Kin began by avoiding the shadow imitation technique and hurling a flurry of senbon needles. He also used strings to ring the bells from unexpected positions. Kin grinned to himself. Unfortunately, Orochimaru-sama already provided us with all the contestant information, so I am fully aware of his Kage-main. This guy is a pushover. The sensation of her body stopping caused her thoughts to stop, and she heard her opponent say, "Shadow manipulation, successful." Each drew a shuriken and threw it at the other, Kin imitating Shikamaru's movements. Shikamaru successfully dodged the attack when it came time for them to do so because she was too close to the wall. Kin, who had previously retreated, smashed her head against it and passed out. Hayate called the match once more. Winner. Nara Shikamaru. Will medic Nins please come and take the kunoichi for an examination? She likely has a concussion. As they waited for the next match, everyone's attention was on the computer screen and not really on the man coughing. Abume Zaku vs Temari's names soon showed up on the screen. Oh, this is definitely different. As the fighters positioned themselves, Naruto thought, I wonder what Zaku will be able to do this time around without having his arms broken by Sasuke. Zaku raised his hands and released a series of intensely concentrated jets of chakra-infused air as soon as the match began. Temari's big fan summoned a gust of wind that easily blocked this attack with gusts from her enormous fan. Temari tore up Zaku, making the match extremely one-sided and denying the Auto Nin any chance to fight back. Zaku's hands were heavily bleeding less than a minute after the match started, making his chakra tubes useless to keep another genin from being rendered unconscious. Hayate intervened. Winner. Temari. Abume Zaku, please make your way to the medical bay to have your injuries treated. The monitor flashed into existence, and everyone's gaze turned back to the ceiling. A few seconds later, the names Aburame, Shino and Rock Lee were displayed on the screen. The ninja in green spandex was shouting encouraging words to his student, mainly about the product of hard work and living in the springtime of youthfulness, but most people tried to ignore him. This must be fascinating. Let us observe whether Shino's bugs are able to match Lee's speed. Although Lee obviously appeared to have a clear advantage, the bout started out as a straightforward taijutsu duel between the two fighters. The fighters dispersed after a short while, and Shino reached up to adjust his sunglasses. This match has already been decided. Rock Lee, I have already implanted several kakaichu on you, and soon they will drain your chakra until you won't be able to cast any ninjutsu or genjutsu. When enough time has passed, you will eventually fall unconscious due to chakra exhaustion. Forfeit now. Sino arched an eyebrow at his opponent's laughter, which was amusing rather than derisive. I apologize, Shino-san, but your bugs are useless to you now. Unfortunately for you, I was already unable to perform any ninjutsu or genjutsu of any kind, so your strategy won't work on me, as I simply rely on taijutsu. When Lee vanished, he gave Shino a roundhouse kick to the back that sent him skidding across the floor, and Shino mentally cursed Lee was gone again. When Shino woke up only because his bugs improved his sense of air vibrations, did Shino manage to block Lee's punch to his stomach in the nick of time. Shino was obviously on the defensive as he tried his best to block Lee's quick movements, but more often than not, the fight went on for a few more minutes. Shino's bugs had already separated from Lee early in the battle, swollen with as much of his chakra as they could drain. However, Shino was too quick to implant any more on his opponent. As though they were moving slowly, Lee was able to dance around Shino and his bugs. Shino quickly realized that his chances of winning were slim. Proctor, I forfeit. After giving a nod, Hayate declared the match winner. Rock Lee. Will both fighters take their positions at the top of the balcony? When Shino rejoined his team, Kiba greeted him with a mocking remark about how he could have kicked Lee's ass. Shino stayed neutral, merely hoping that Kiba would beat him to the ground, while the rest of the team looked down at the ground in shame. Lee, on the other hand, returned to a tearful sensei, and the two embraced. As the fighters made their way back to their balconies, the next match, Yakushi Kabuto vs Sabaku no Gara, was already displayed on the computer monitor. This match also turned out to be anticlimactic because Kabuto gave up his right as soon as it was called because he didn't want to show off his own or Gara's strength, which he still thought would be used to destroy Konoha. But everyone was taken aback by the next matchup, and many had to double-check that they had read it correctly. Haruno Sakura vs Uchiha Sasuke. Sure, I wanted to prove my strength to Sasuke, but I never wanted to fight him, Sakura said with a sinking heart. I could never win anywhere in the world, and if I did, Sasuke would be so upset with me that he would never speak to me again. She carried on in this manner for a few more seconds before Naruto struck her in the head. Sakura, I know what you're thinking. Just because you don't believe in your capabilities doesn't mean no one else does. If you don't trust yourself, then trust me also. Which do you think Sasuke would be more angry with? You fighting him with everything you have and maybe losing? Or you forfeiting or worse, letting him intentionally win? The expression on Sakura's face indicated that she knew. Good, now go show Sasuke just how strong you have gotten. Sakura walked to the floor and stood across from Sasuke, who she could swear had a slight flush on his cheeks. Ready? Begin. To his surprise, she had rushed at him quickly. Even though Sasuke had planned to end the match before he had to humiliate his teammate, Sasuke flared his Sharingan to life and spun in midair, barely avoiding the blow to his stomach. What was that? How did she become so quick? I must exercise caution because it was the same in the forest as well. After Sasuke re-engaged his teammate, they got into a heated taijutsu duel. They started a full-on battle, swiftly dispelling any ideas either of them had about holding back a minute or so later. Both of them leapt back, looking a little exhausted. Sasuke grinned. When did you get so strong, Sakura-chan? I don't ever remember you having so much skill. Sakura's mind was spinning. Did he simply end my name with Chan? Hold on, Naruto was correct. Damn it. When he's right, I detest it. She started to remove the weights from her wrists and ankles and remarked, thanks Sasuke-kun. I've been training ridiculously hard with Naruto, but you better get ready, because I'm not going to hold back anymore. Even though they weren't that far off the ground, they sank into the stone floor when they fell, leaving spider web cracks on the floor. When Sasuke saw it, his eyes widened, and he braced himself for whatever Sakura might throw at him. He wasn't prepared for Sakura to vanish entirely when she got to her feet, kicking his legs in a sweeping motion, but he was able to jump over it with the help of his Sharingan. Oh no! As he flipped through the air and landed in a low crouch to avoid a blow from Sakura, Sasuke thought, she's so much faster than before, if she hits me I'll be in serious trouble. It was easy enough for him to see her movements with his Sharingan, but it was much harder to keep up with them. Sasuke danced around Sakura's punches and kicks for the next few minutes, avoiding her blows while attempting, but failing, to land a few of his own. Sasuke would occasionally use a Kaden, Gokaku no Jutsu, Fire Release, Grand Fireball Technique, or a Kaden, Hosenka no Jutsu, Fire Release, Art of the Phoenix Flower, to give himself some breathing room or to stop Sakura from moving closer to him. However, after avoiding the jutsu, Sakura promptly returned overall. Sakura succeeded in pushing Sasuke to the edge, something he never imagined was possible, especially from this fangirl, or rather, ex-fangirl. Sakura and Sasuke were both out of breath and unable to overcome one another. Sakura grinned. Well, Sasuke-kun, I think it's about time you give this up. We both know that I will win this. As he watched the match, Naruto reflected, well, it seems that when she gets into the swing of things, she can be just fierce a competitor as Sasuke is. Sasuke grinned back at him, huh, I think you should heed your own advice, Sakura-chan. You don't have any notable ninjutsu to use against me, and I think you are just about out of stamina. Well then, I guess I better end this quickly then. As his teammate started to channel her chakra to her feet, Sasuke looked on in bewilderment. In an instant, she had traveled the distance between them. Sasuke saw a strange green glow surrounding Sakura's fist as he was avoiding the hand that had just passed through the area his body was in. When he saw what happened when Sakura's fist hit the floor, he nearly let his bladder out. The entire ground was covered in a web-like pattern of cracks from the force of her blow, which was enough to shatter the stone floor to pieces. Unbelieving that a genin could accomplish such a feat, Sasuke and the rest of the audience gaped at the sheer devastation the young girl had wrought. Sigh. I told her she shouldn't use that yet. She doesn't have enough chakra to sustain that technique for very long, but she will figure that out in a few seconds anyway. Naruto grumbled to himself. Sakura glanced at her astonished crush as she lifted her fist off the ground. Sakura smiled. Well, what do you think, Sasuke-kun? It's a good thing that hit hadn't landed, cause I would have already been on my way to. She collapsed from chakra depletion before she could finish her thoughts, but Sasuke caught her before she hit the ground. Though he couldn't quite make out what he was saying, Naruto saw Sasuke mouth a few words to the unconscious Sakura. The match was then called by Hayate. Winner. Uchiha Sasuke. Will a medic team please take Haruno Sakura for treatment? Also, would Chunin proficient in Doden please come and fix the floor for the next match? When the medic nins showed up, Sasuke turned to face them. The medics nodded and turned to allow Sasuke to follow them down one of the hallways. Don't worry, I'll take her. The next matchup, Hyuga Neji vs Hyuga Hinata, was already displayed on the computer screen when the two had left the area. Naruto turned to Hinata before she jumped to the ground, thinking, crap, I was hoping this matchup would change. Hina-chan, would you maybe consider forfeiting this match? His words caused Hinata to look hurt. Do you not have faith in me? I'm not afraid of Neji, and I am well aware of his grudge towards you and myself, though I may not win. Would you not even want me to try? Naruto sighed in exasperation for a long time. You're right, Hinata. I'm sorry. I am just worried about you. Just make sure you are safe, okay? In response, Hinata grabbed Naruto by the collar of his shirt and kissed him passionately, happy that their roles had been reversed after all these years. She watched a blush appear on Naruto's face and giggled a little. To confront her cousin, Hinata leapt to the arena floor. Neji detested Hinata for being a member of the main family and regarded her with contempt. Hayate started berating his cousin as soon as he started the match. Then Neji crossed his arms over his chest. Hinata-sama, you should forfeit this match. You and I both know that my skills in Juken dwarf your own. I do not wish to maim the heiress of my clan so early on in her life. Hinata grinned. Thank you for your consideration, Neji-san. Unfortunately, it is unnecessary. I am confident in my abilities, and even though I may not be able to win this, I will still fight. The Byakugan of Neji flared into existence. So be it. In an attempt to disable one of his arms, Hinata twisted around his arm and attempted to strike him in the shoulder with one of her own blows. After he gave her a palm strike to the abdomen, Neji was easily able to avoid her blow as he swept her legs. Demonstrating no signs of surprise at her speed, Neji tried to hit the tenketsu points on her arm as she fell to the ground, but she was able to push off the ground and away from Neji by planting her hands on the ground from an unusual angle. Hinata leapt at Neji from above and placed her palm on his back as soon as she was able to stand again. As Neji skillfully slipped out from under her attack, her hand moved through the air, causing her to crash into the floor, creating a tiny crater before Hinata could free herself and leap around Neji. His own palm strike slammed into her. Neji merely scoffed and continued to turn his head away from Hinata, who was once more above his back. Just give up. This fight is beginning to bore me already. This is your last warning before I. When a sharp pain shot through his back, momentarily stunned him, he stopped talking. Hinata rushed as fast as she could. Determined to render him unconscious at the last moment, he was able to move again and dodged as Hinata walked right by him. He looked over at his cousin. What did you do? Hinata gave a naive smile. I used strategy to overcome a stronger opponent. Thanks to Naruto-kun's many spars, I was able to discover the blind spot in Byakugan, and so I threw the stone I picked up from when my first strike missed. You would do well not to underestimate your opponent, Neji-san. Seething with rage, Neji turned to face his cousin, wanting to cause him as much pain as possible for his embarrassment. Neji then assumed an odd posture and said, I'm impressed, Hinata-sama. You have exceeded what I had gauged to be your potential. It is unfortunate then that I must end this. You're within my range. When Naruto instantly recognized Neji's stance, he thought, oh shit. Shugohaku Rokuhuion Sho, protection of the 8 trigrams 64 palms, is the technique Hinata has been honing for the past few months, and she was about to test it out when she glanced at her cousin. Hake Rokuhuion Sho, 8 trigrams 64 palms technique. Neji hurried forward. 2 strikes. Neji observed as his cousin used odd chakra arcs extending from her palms to deflect his blows. 4 strikes, says, it doesn't matter, I will just crush her defense, whatever it is. Only 3 of the blows were blocked by Hinata, and one of them closed a tenketsu point on her shoulder, limiting her chakra to her right arm. 8 strikes. This time, Hinata's defensive technique was limited as she was only able to block a few of the strikes. The remainder struck different parts of her arms. 16 strikes. These blows broke through the chakra barrier Hinata had created, leaving her helpless. Naruto's iron grip was crushing the metal bars around the balcony as he held on to them tightly. Hinata will be upset with me if I go down there right now. I must allow her to confront her cousin independently. 32 strikes. As Hinata bore the brunt of Neji's attack, she was unable to even wince in agony. 64 strikes. Hinata was pushed clear across the floor by the final blow. She eventually came to a stop after skidding all the way to the opposite side of the arena. Her legs felt like they would give out at any second, but she slowly got to her feet on her own. Neji grinned. I am surprised that you are still standing after that. I suppose you are the heiress of our clan, so it isn't too surprising. Hinata made every effort to regain her balance. I feel bad for you, Neji-kun. Neji frowned. What did you say? Hinata gave a little cough. I said I feel bad for you. You blame everything on everyone else, not taking any control of your own life as you curse fate for taking your father from you, so I truly feel sorry for you. Neji became enraged and hurried to his cousin, concentrating all of his chakra into one hand and aiming for her heart. He was only a few feet away from Hinata when a flash of yellow blocked his path and he felt a sharp pain in his hand. Looking, Neji saw Naruto smashing his hand. Naruto's blood-red eyes, with a black slit down the center, were fixed on Neji. You shouldn't have done that, Neji. I promised that I would believe in Hinata and allow her to fight you with her own power, but what you were about to do is unforgivable. As Naruto tightened his hold on Neji's hand, the older boy was unable to free his hand and was forced to his knees. Naruto resisted letting go even after the chunin appeared. Hayate gave Neji's hand a final, forceful squeeze, breaking several of his fingers, before letting go only after declaring the match and threatening to automatically fail him in his match. Naruto vanished in a cloud of smoke, shocking everyone. Before the match was even called, Naruto's Kage Bunshin had picked up the now conscious Hinata and started carrying her to the medic nins while he was assisting Neji. As he turned to leave, he glanced back at Neji. I'm not finished with you yet, although I would much rather be friends with Hina-chan's family. It seems that until you're face down in the dirt, you won't let go of your hatred towards Hinata. The Chunin senseis exchanged puzzled glances, unable to comprehend how Naruto had managed to arrive on the scene before them, let alone defeat one of the tournament's strongest genin in a matter of seconds. When Naruto saw Kiba smirk and leap to the arena floor, he didn't even need to glance at the screen. Naruto turned around and glared at Kiba after giving Hinata to the medic nins, but Kiba simply laughed. That was too good. Neji really kicked her ass good. Don't worry, I'll make sure that they put you in the cot next to hers in the medical wing. Naruto just trembled with anger. Kurama, I want you to take charge of me if I start to lose control. No matter how furious I am at the moment, I can't do anything that I'll regret. Just exercise caution. You still have to restrain yourself. Orochimaru might flee if he notices your strength, and we wouldn't be able to track him down. I understand. Next match between Inuzuka Kiba and Uzumaki Naruto, begin. In order to increase speed and prepare Akamaru for battle, Kiba began the match with his Shikyaku no Jutsu, 4 legs technique, and a Jujin Bunshin, human beast clone. Then, both of them charged at Naruto, with Kiba going for his chest to give him a deep cut and Akamaru aiming for his legs to render him helpless. Without making a move, Naruto waited for Kiba to approach him. When they were nearly upon him, he stepped behind them, grabbed them both by the nape of their necks, and threw them hard to the ground. Then, while still facing his opponent, Naruto retreated a short distance. Get up, you aren't finished. The strength and coldness of Naruto's actions, particularly toward a fellow Konoha shinobi, made the Chunin watching the match perspire before Kakashi intervened. Kurenai, who was standing with Kakashi and Guy, was about to end the match for the benefit of her student. Don't Kurenai. Both Naruto and Kiba would be very upset if you interfered. Now Naruto isn't just being upset for any reason. Kiba has repeatedly made unwanted advances upon Hinata Hyuga despite both Naruto and Hinata's pleas to stop. I also heard that recently he made a remark towards Naruto's prisoner, aimed at degrading Hinata's character. Kurenai's gaze shifted to Kakashi. I don't care about what childish encounters occurred between Naruto and Kiba, though I will have a talk with Kiba about it after his match. It doesn't warrant for Naruto to beat him to a pulp. You're right, it doesn't. I just wanted to make sure that you knew the reasoning behind Naruto's actions, but that isn't why I stopped you. Kiba isn't defeated yet. Kurenai turned to see Kiba and Akamaru stand up, both of them fine except for a small amount of blood coming from their noses. In the end, he refrained. Kakashi reflected. It appears that Naruto can't seriously harm one of his allies, regardless of how furious he gets. Kiba cleaned his nose of the blood that was dripping down. He then removed 2 tiny pills from the pouch around his waist and said, "Bastard, you'll pay for that." Akamaru gave him a curious glance. Both Kiba and Akamaru took a pill, and their chakras erupted out of control. I know, boy. It's a little early, but I want to show this guy just how outclassed he is. Jinju Kanbi Henge. Sotoro, human-beast combination transformation, double-headed wolf. So, in terms of taijutsu, he wants to beat me using his best technique. He'll lose to me in his own game. A massive double-headed dog appeared in the center of the arena floor. Once the smoke had cleared, both heads had big frowns on them as they gazed down at Naruto. The enormous dog abruptly vanished, but Naruto could easily follow it. When Naruto looked up, he saw the enormous dog start to roll around in midair. Garoga, Fang Wolf Fang, channeling chakra, Naruto placed his right hand over his left forearm. Marks suddenly started to appear on his skin and spread toward Naruto's palm. Fuinjutsu. Garando Ten Barrier, Grand Heaven's Barrier. Between Naruto and the spinning dog, a huge purple octagonal mass that was several meters across and a foot thick materialized. Kiba thought it would be a quick trick to buy some time, so he crashed into the barrier, but the more force he applied, the more pain he experienced. The jutsu holding the big dog together was soon dispelled when Kiba was pushed back with such force that he slammed into the arena's opposite wall. He is much stronger than he was during the first chunin exam, so I'll give it to him. Let's go, Kiba. I haven't even gotten started. Come at me with everything you have. I have a promise to fulfill, and neither of us are leaving till you are face down on this floor. Kiba would later come to regret charging Naruto, a move that required little prodding on his part. Naruto knocked Kiba out cold by slamming his fist into his opponent's stomach. When he was within striking range, Kiba had time to see Naruto's fist strike his face before he was knocked unconscious and sent flying toward the opposite end of the arena. In an attempt to win the match, Shikamaru launched himself at Naruto, but Naruto caught him with a hand raised to his right. The dog was grabbed by the scruff by Naruto. Proctor, this match is over. Hayate gave a nod. Winner. Uzumaki. Naruto, can a team please retrieve Inuzuka Kiba for an examination? Shikamaru yelled softly as he ran to his owner's unconscious form after Naruto released him. Naruto didn't care how the next two fights turned out. He just went to the medical bay to stay with Hinata. Naruto found out the last matches when Kakashi and Kurenai arrived 30 minutes later. Choji vs Dosu was the one that followed, and Naruto had already witnessed the same result. By using the Nikuden Sensha, human bullet tank, Choji attempted to counter Dosu's sound-based attacks, but Dosu was still able to use his attack by controlling sound through Choji's body's water. The following game had been a huge letdown, knowing that she wouldn't be able to defeat the weapons specialist because she couldn't get close enough to use her Shintenshin no Jutsu, mind-body switch technique, and didn't want to get hurt needlessly. Ino forfeited the match right away in the final match between herself and Tenten. Kakashi then produced a sheet of paper with the matchups for the remaining exam finals. Hyuga Neji vs Uzumaki. Naruto. Kankuro vs Haku. Temari vs Nara. Shikamaru against Subaku no Gara, Rock Lee. Dosu vs Uchiha Sasuke. Tenten vs the first match victor. Kakashi left the room to give Kurenai an opportunity to speak with Naruto after he had finished explaining the remainder of the match to him and informing him that he had a month to get ready for the finals. Naruto, I think we should talk about your match against Kiba. Taking Hinata's hand, Naruto squeezed it tightly. I have nothing to talk about. I abided by the rules, and I didn't do any more damage than necessary to win. He should be grateful that I didn't make the match last longer. No matter how much I wished to hurt him, I know Hinata would have been upset with me if I injured her teammate too much, even though she likes him less than I do. So if there is anything to talk about, it should be how you are going to talk to Kiba about changing his attitude, otherwise we're finished. Kurenai's feelings about what Naruto had just said were conflicted. She had to resist using a genjutsu to teach Naruto manners because she was initially offended by his disrespectful behavior toward her. She then realized that the blonde genin was being fair and merely trying to eliminate Kiba's sense of superiority. Kurenai sighed deeply, knowing that there was nothing she could say to Naruto that would cause him to change his mind. I guess I can't do anything really, since it was all fair play according to the rules of the exam. Good luck in the finals, Naruto. I suppose I've resolved Kiba's attitude issue for the time being. If he wants a rematch, I can always give him another beating. Now there's just one more person by the end of this month. I hope he'll be as prepared as I am. I don't think so. I would personally take control of your body as a form of punishment if you lost, and I would never allow you to rule again. Thanks, Kurama. I'm happy I can always rely on you for support. In Naruto's mindscape, the enormous fox laughed. Naruto slowly woke up in his apartment, blinking drowsily. He needed to take care of something before the majority of the population woke up, even though it was well before dawn. To reduce the likelihood of being caught, he typically performed his advanced chakra manipulations early in the morning. Far from Konoha, it was bad enough that Kakashi and the Hokage knew about his abilities, but maybe he could turn that to his advantage. Uncertain of Hinata's emotional reaction to the revelation that her boyfriend was, in fact, well into his 20s, he hadn't even told her what he was completely capable of. Avoiding any ninjas who might have happened to be out and about, Naruto dashed through the village naturally. This was true for the two shinobi in green spandex who woke up early every day to practice taijutsu. After training with gravity seals for years, he had developed an inhumane speed that allowed him to arrive at the training grounds in a matter of minutes. Naruto has mastered the art of fuinjutsu, learning how to use his seals in ways that most people would never understand. He even created a transportation seal for his trash can that used a space-time ninjutsu to send anything thrown into it to the dumpster. Naruto started his string of jutsu at the training ground, but after just a few minutes of using the advanced Keki Genkai jutsu, he once again felt worn out. Panting, Naruto took a brief rest leaning against a big tree. Kurama, I haven't noticed much progress. When I use these jutsu, my chakra runs out too quickly. I can't use your chakra because I've burned through all of mine. Unless I want to announce to the world that I'm not from this era, I also need to save my backup plans for the appropriate moment. I don't want to use them just yet. That's the reason it's called Naruto training. Not everything in life is simple, whether it's jutsu or love. Yes, I am aware of that, but even after weeks of training, employing these jutsu hasn't gotten any simpler. I'm not sure what I'm doing incorrectly. Gaki, Get back to training and quit whining. Eventually, it will become easier if you continue practicing as usual, or are you going to complain until Orochimaru or the Akatsuki appear? HMPF. After a few hours, a tired Naruto staggered home, but Hinata was already waiting outside his door. Hello Hina-chan, what are you doing here? I thought for sure that you would be with your father train HMPF. Hinata leapt at him and slammed her lips against his, silencing him. The fiery kiss grew more intense as the minutes went by, and they held each other for a number of minutes. Naruto appeared both happy and perplexed as he broke off the kiss after what seemed like just a few seconds. Well, good morning to you too, but what has gotten into you today? Hinata appeared a little offended by his inquiry. Do you really not know what day it is today? Naruto pondered for a few moments, attempting to understand her meaning. The sudden realization caused Naruto's eyes to widen. I rescued her from that Kumo nin today. However, Hiyashi promised me he wouldn't tell her, so she shouldn't know. He didn't. In my opinion, the girl most likely figured it out, but you don't give her enough credit. Naruto regained control over his facial features and grinned. Sorry Hina-chan, I really don't know what today is. Stepping back, Hinata folded her arms across her chest. Naruto, I'm not a little girl. I'm not naive enough to believe that you saving me was just a dream. I thought you would trust me more than that. Hinata tried her best to pout, but Naruto laughed. He stepped forward, drawing her close for a firm embrace. You're right Hina-chan, I'm sorry for not telling you right off the bat, but I just wanted to try and protect you from that traumatic incident. How about I take you somewhere for breakfast to make up for it? Hinata pressed herself closer to his chest and closed her eyes. Sure, that'd be great. Okay. But I have to get a shower first, I just got back from some training. Naruto washed up fast, and the two of them headed to a random Konoha store. They ate in silence while savoring their time together in one of the few locations that would let Naruto inside following their departure. Hinata grabbed Naruto's hand and started dragging him toward a park where they could hang out, but Naruto refused to move. Hinata spun around and looked at Naruto in a very perplexed manner. I'm sorry Hina-chan, but I have to meet someone very important today. Hinata released his grip and cast a wounded glance at the floor. A hand beneath her chin raised her face so she could see Naruto. I won't be able to share the day with you today, but as soon as I'm finished I will come get you, and we can spend the rest of the night together. How does that sound? After giving Naruto one last embrace, Hinata nodded and walked away. He scratched the back of his head as he watched her leave. Damn it, I hope she's not too upset. I'd better get this over with because I detest it when she's upset. Naruto crossed Konoha until he reached the village's boundary. Here, the natural hot springs rose from the earth and gathered to form the opulent hot springs of Konoha. Naruto only had to follow the women's screams and shouts in the hot springs to find the man he was seeking, so it didn't take him long. He landed in a tree close to the front of one of the buildings and saw an elderly man with red markings on his face and long white hair run out the doorway while a dozen kunoichi followed him, yelling bloody murder. Naruto chuckled with nostalgia throughout the entire scene. Ero Sennin, you're always the same. Naruto let the women beat him senselessly while he waited for Jiraiya to finish playing possum. He got up and brushed the dirt from his clothes after they had all gone, but he could feel someone watching him. You know, it isn't very nice to spy on people, so why don't you come on out? You sure are calling the kettle black, aren't ya, Pot? Naruto inquired, laughing, as he landed in front of his former sensei. Despite the boy's instant recognition, Jiraiya kept his expression neutral. And who might you be? Naruto's expression slightly hardened. It isn't nice to lie, Ero Sennin, I have tons of stuff to talk to you about and not a whole lot of time to do it. Naruto took a step forward, put his left hand on Jiraiya's chest, and raised his right hand in a one-handed ram seal, which involves the thumb over the ring and pinky fingers and the index and middle fingers pointed straight up. What the, was all Jiraiya could manage to say before the two vanished in a burst of yellow. The landing was rough, but they reappeared in one of the training grounds outside the village. Jiraiya landed on his butt, and Naruto crashed headfirst into a tree. Upon realizing that this genin had just employed the Hiraishin no Jutsu, Jiraiya gaped, although it was evident that he still needed to practice the reappearing aspect of the jutsu. Naruto approached his old sensei, who was still ogling the child, after he had finished massaging his now bruised head. Jiraiya screamed, "HH, how did you just do that?" and gestured to the incoming blonde. As Jiraiya's mouth opened, Naruto laughed and nervously scratched the back of his head. What? You think my dad was the only one who was able to do that? I do admit that I still haven't really gotten it down flat, but I think that it has something to do with the seals themselves. Maybe I didn't draw them right? Naruto asked. Oh well, I guess that takes care of introductions then, though you probably knew who I was just from seeing my face. Jiraiya needed several minutes to gather himself. Jiraiya's expression had changed to one Naruto had seen only a few times. "Kid, you have a lot of explaining to do, and don't even think about lying to me." Naruto's face broke into a big smile. "Don't worry, Ero Sennin, you were the first person I was planning on telling, but a certain one-eyed man ruined that one." An eyebrow was raised by Jiraiya. "Tell me what?" Naruto recounted his story in detail over the course of the following hour. Jiraiya appeared pleased when Naruto was able to transform Nagato from Akatsuki, but his face darkened considerably when Naruto entered his fight with Pain, Nagato. Jiraiya was speechless and didn't ask any questions when Naruto reached the Jubi and the Fourth Shinobi War. He didn't know how to react to the news that the world was ending. Who would? When Naruto reached the jutsu that allowed him to rip the fabric of time and rewrite history, his interest was piqued once more. Additionally, he was thrilled to learn about Naruto's training in Fuinjutsu and Ninjutsu Keki Genkai manipulation. Jiraiya pondered what he had been told for a few minutes after Naruto concluded his account of what had happened. "So to recount, you are a sage, you have full control of Kyuubi's chakra, and you can use every elemental jutsu including all elemental Keki Genkai?" Naruto paused to reflect. "Yup. Oh, and his name is Kurama. Calling him Kyuubi is degrading." Jiraiya started laughing and suddenly started crying. "Wow kid, that is some tale. I couldn't write a book with that much creativity, especially when you got to that huge Shinobi alliance. That was just rich, ha 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 ha." In a fit of rage, Naruto used a massive chakra surge to silence the elderly man in front of him. Jiraiya saw stars after Naruto punched him in the stomach, sending him flying into a tree. When Jiraiya eventually regained consciousness, he looked up to see Naruto's blue eyes, which were filled with serious and rage. Jiraiya lost sight of Naruto and then saw him again, clutching his red vest. Naruto's eyes started to well up with tears. "You think I would lie? You have no idea what it was like. The words? I was pinned down and had to watch the end of the world. Obito killed everyone close to me, everyone that I ever loved, they all," caused Naruto to collapse to his knees on the ground, sobbing, as Jiraiya gave him a pat on the back. "Sorry Naruto, you're right, it was cruel for me to not believe you." Naruto wiped his eyes and got to his feet. "It's okay Ero Sennin, sorry about that. It's just that I haven't really been able to talk to anyone besides Kurama about what happened, and everything just kinda came out at once." Jiraiya gave Naruto a shoulder pat. "No, if anyone has to apologize, it has to be me. Everything you said matches up perfectly with what I've learned these past few years." After a few awkward seconds of silence, Jiraiya turned to face Naruto. "I want to see it." Naruto raised his head in bewilderment. "See what?" Jiraiya grinned. "Your Sennin mode." In the remote woods they were in, Naruto sat cross-legged on the soft ground, nodded, and inhaled deeply. Then he closed his eyes and clasped his hands together. Jiraiya followed suit, wishing to contrast the two. "He is as motionless as possible, which adds to the peace I sense around him. He is absorbing the natural chakra flawlessly, and I can feel it. Was he truly a better senjutsu master than I was? How brilliant is this child?" Naruto opened his yellow eyes, which were now fully shaded in orange. His sensei also opened his own. The outcome surprised Jiraiya more than she could have imagined. "You have the eyes that prove the transformation is complete, and you don't have any signs of becoming a frog at all. You have truly mastered senjutsu, but let's put it to the test. Since we are all the way out here, we shouldn't have to worry about any collateral damage. Besides, it's been a while since I've been in a serious fight." Even though Jiraiya hadn't mastered Sage Mode, his face was somewhat changed to resemble a frog, but that didn't stop him from giving Naruto his all. Jiraiya's years of experience allowed him to remain evenly matched with Naruto for the majority of the fight, even though Naruto had superior senjutsu. Both of them used their best fighting skills and each unleashed multiple destructive jutsu that had the power to alter the very terrain. The shading quickly disappeared from both of their eyes due to the short duration of Sage Mode, leaving two worn-out shinobi sitting on the ground and gasping for air after their battle. Jiraiya had gained a newfound respect for Naruto, and both of them were covered in bruises. Naruto avoided using any of his new jutsu, specifically the elemental Keki Genkais, to avoid severe exhaustion. Jiraiya was beaming broadly as he sat up. "That was great Naruto. I can't believe that you were able to keep it up for so long, though I thought you would have been a bit faster." Pulling up the sleeves of his shirt, Naruto showed off the long seals on both arms. Grinning, Jiraiya, who recognized a gravity seal when he saw one, went pale. Jiraiya stammered, gesturing to his arms. "How much?" "Somewhere on the lines of 30 times on my arms and legs. I'll tell you though, these gravity seals are really dangerous. If I were a normal shinobi, my bodies probably wouldn't be able to handle anything more than 2 or 3 times normal gravity. The human body just can't take it. My tendons and muscles would rip and my bones would shatter. It also took a while for me to get my blood vessels strong enough to pump blood against the gravity. If it wasn't for Kurama healing all the damage to my bones and joints along with me reinforcing my entire body with chakra, I wouldn't be alive right now. Jiraiya burst into laughter. Jiraiya wiped a tear from his eye while continuing to laugh. And here I thought I was a challenge for you. If you had lost a few of those G's I would have been face down in the dirt. Ha 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 ha. He said. So Naruto, why did you decide to tell me all this? Besides the fact I was your sensei, I don't see a reason for you to come to me. I can't really teach you anything. Naruto grinned. Well, mostly I just wanted to reconnect with one of the only father figures I've ever had, but since you're offering, I guess you can help me with my chakra control. Whenever I use the Kekkei Genkai Jutsu it sucks huge amounts of my chakra up, so they aren't really helpful in battle. I need a way to use less chakra with the jutsu. But I just can't think of anything. Kurama says that I just need practice, but I thought I could at least ask you about it first. Jiraiya's eyebrow went up. Jiraiya stroked his chin and said, I think I might have something that could help. Well, now that you mention it, I think I might have something that could help. Ever heard of the Fuinjutsu? Chakra Kurenjingashiru, Chakra Cleansing Seal. Jiraiya proceeded after Naruto shook his head. Well, basically, there are 5 variations of this Fuin, one for each element. The drawings for each are the exact same, with exception of the kanji in the middle, which is the kanji for that specific element. They have to be unique because each acts as the chakra purifier for that element. For example, the one with the fire kanji in the middle would purify your chakra so you can execute Kaiden jutsus with ease. There's a drawback using this, however the purification process isn't as efficient as the real thing, so, when you perform a jutsu through this Fuin, you would have to use more chakra than someone who already has an affinity for that element, though I doubt that would present much of a problem to someone such as yourself with larger chakra reserves than anyone alive. Naruto's gaze brightened. Great, when can we start? Jiraiya raised his hands and closed his eyes. Hold up there, you know I don't do anything for free. I want you to show me something before we begin. No, I won't do my sexy jutsu for you, lecherous old pervert. Naruto squinted as he recalled his first meeting with the elderly man. Angry, Jiraiya's face flushed. Hey, I wasn't going to ask that. I just want to see your Kyuubi mode. I want to see what it's like when someone has complete control of the strongest of the Biju. Show me your full strength. I'm curious how I would measure up. Naruto's gaze widened. Are you idiotic? Do you have any idea how dangerous that is? I should just paint a huge target on my back. Everyone will be able to feel Kurama's chakra, and I don't really want to spend several weeks trying to prove that I'm not a threat to Konoha. Jiraiya turned his head away from Naruto and folded his arms across his chest. Well then, I guess you really don't need my help then. Have fun not being able to use any of your special jutsus for very long. Naruto was about to snap back in rage, but Kurama intervened. Idiot. You have the opportunity to learn how to execute the strongest jutsus in the world, but you're hesitant because you think people might sense your chakra? I didn't think you were this dumb after spending so much time in the library. When Naruto responded to Jiraiya's request, his expression remained irate. I'll do it. After a brief period of closing his eyes, Naruto suddenly felt a primal surge of chakra shoot out of him in all directions. The chakra was perfectly shaped by Naruto to resemble Kurama. Jiraiya had trouble breathing in Naruto's presence because his breath was stuck in his throat. Although his mouth was open, nothing came out of it. Naruto chuckled as he glanced down at his former sensei. Don't pass out yet, old man, I can still go further. At that moment, Naruto absorbed Senjutsu chakra into himself, giving him another burst of power. Horizontal bars emerged across Naruto's red-slitted eyes, and the enormous chakra fox's brightness increased. At a training ground nearby, Sasuke was being taught by Kakashi how to use the Sharingan for more subdued purposes, such as identifying and producing various genjutsus during the chunin exams. It also became clear that Sasuke had not been training as diligently as he ought to have, particularly after Sakura nearly defeated him in the preliminary round. He had Kakashi ensuring that he was training himself to the bone during his month-long training. During a fight, Sasuke and Kakashi experienced a chakra surge that was more intense than anything they had ever experienced. The atmosphere was so oppressive that Sasuke had to drop to one knee in order to avoid passing out. Sasuke was left in a state of confusion as the chakra vanished as abruptly as it had appeared, and Kakashi simply turned to face its origin. What the devil are you doing, Naruto? Office of the Hokage. Sarutobi was enjoying a puff of his pipe while gazing out over his village, taking a respite from the routine duties that came with the role of Hokage. A chakra with a power he hadn't experienced since the Shoji Hokage was alive swept across the village as he turned to resume the paperwork. Hiruzen dropped his pipe from his lips. This chakra, it's stronger than Hashirama-sensei's. This is bad. Really, really bad. A number of Anbu rushed in as the door to the Hokage's office flew open, followed by a terrified Danzo. Danzo started to say, "Hiruzen, something's coming, we have to prepare our defenses too." But the chakra signature vanished as soon as it appeared. Sarutobi looked over at Danzo. "Danzo, that was just Jiraiya preparing a jutsu of his. You know how experimental he can be sometimes. He told me earlier to look out for something like this, so just calm down, I'll make a public statement later about this." Hiruzen stared back at the Hokage without flinching, but Danzo narrowed his eyes. Danzo closed his eyes and left the office. After a few tense moments, Hiruzen sighed deeply as he watched the man limp away, then turned his chair to gaze out at his village through the window. "What the devil are you doing, Naruto?" Returning with Jiraiya and Naruto. To give Jiraiya more time to fully comprehend Naruto's overwhelming power, Naruto continued the transformation for a few more seconds before someone decided to come snooping and unintentionally saw him. He stopped the transformation. Dealing with someone who sees Naruto in his Kyuubi mode would be more difficult than blaming a chakra like that on a botched experiment by the Sannin. Naruto felt a familiar chakra as he shrank back to his adolescent body and involuntarily reached out to his surroundings with the chakra leaving his body. When Naruto realized quickly that it was no longer just the two of them, his eyes widened. Shit! Hinata. Earlier in the morning, Hinata was upset and furious when Naruto cut off communication with her and abandoned her. And who exactly is this individual Naruto must meet today? I'll just follow him and find out for myself if he doesn't tell me right away. And she followed him due in part to her ancestry. She had nearly complete control over her chakra after years of rigorous training. As a result, she found it easy to hide her chakra from everyone, including Naruto. However, she was able to easily track Naruto because she had trained her Byakugan far enough along to see for several kilometers in all directions. He had never been to the bathhouses before, and she found him outside of them. Hinata became even more irate over this, and the only thing that prevented her from confronting her boyfriend was the fact that he appeared to be waiting for something to happen and was looking very serious. Before she knew it, she heard cries and an elderly man stormed through the door, followed by a group of kunoichi who beat the living daylights out of him. She recognized this man from the academy lessons in a matter of seconds. He was one of the most powerful ninja Konohagakure had ever produced, Jiraiya, the Gamma Sannin. In an attempt to determine how Naruto and the elderly man were related, Hinata glanced back and forth between them. When the kunoichi were satisfied that they had completed their mission and everyone had gone, the Toad Sannin called out to Naruto, and the two struck up a conversation. Despite the fact that Jiraiya had obviously never met the boy, it appeared to Hinata that Naruto had known the Sannin from a prior encounter. The fact that Naruto transformed his fingers into a one-handed seal and vanished in a burst of yellow startled her even more. Hinata's eyes glowed uncontrollably. "And Nani? Where did he go?" She found him again a few seconds after her Byakugan flared to life once more. It took him only a few seconds to reach the opposite side of the village. She ran as quickly as she could to their location, and when she landed in a tree that overlooked it, she noticed Naruto clutching Jiraiya's vest with an angry expression on his face. As Naruto started screaming about witnessing the end of the world and having to watch everyone die, she listened in. She began to cry a little, trying to be as silent as possible. Naruto's voice seemed to scream out a pain that no one could possibly imagine, but she had no reason to believe him. As the Sannin appeared to challenge Naruto, she kept watching with her Byakugan. She saw tendrils of chakra enter Naruto's system just as she was ready to step in. His chakra coils swelled to multiple times their normal capacity, which was still far larger than any other shinobi in Konoha, and she watched in fascination. The most bizarre aspect was that, despite Hinata's years of academy education and even her private lessons, she had never heard of the strange chakra being absorbed from the earth and atmosphere itself. He had orange shading around his eyes. After he had fully absorbed the chakra from his surroundings, his pupils were replaced by horizontal black bars, and his eyes turned a deeper shade of yellow soon after. Jiraiya started the same procedure, but Hinata could tell from the various facial markings that his metamorphosis wasn't as complete as Naruto's because his intake of the strange chakra wasn't as full. She watched in awe as the two engaged in an epic battle that altered the spar's physical terrain. She pulled back so she wouldn't unintentionally get sucked into the altercation that had started. Hinata had to use her Byakugan to keep up with their movements because they were moving more quickly than any shinobi she had ever witnessed fight. "I'm happy I have the Byakugan because without it, I couldn't have gotten close enough to see this fight. Why didn't Naruto-kun tell me about this strength?" Over the course of the next 30 minutes, she observed every move the two made until they were both on the ground. Gasping for air, she decided that the fight was over and slowly returned to earshot range. She listened in awe as the Sannin explained to her boyfriend how to use each type of nature chakra, but Jiraiya insisted on seeing some demonstration before he could start. She was unable to explain what transpired next. Suddenly, like a tsunami, Naruto summoned a chakra that swept across her life. As the chakra started to change into the shape of a giant fox, she remembered Naruto's description of his tenet and assumed it was Kurama's chakra. She was filled with energy simply by being near it, as if a vast mass of warmth had been spread over her entire being. One thing overshadowed all the other feelings she was experiencing. She felt safe. She had a gut feeling that Naruto's strength would protect her and the village from harm, but she wasn't sure why. Naruto soon gave her another burst of raw power, and she noticed the same bars in his eyes that he had been displaying not too long before. She became aware that Naruto's chakra was causing the tree she was sitting on to react. It started to tremble as if it were attempting to grow itself by force in order to better absorb the raw power that Naruto was emitting. She noticed that every plant in Naruto's immediate vicinity was responding similarly. As she looked at her boyfriend once more, she felt a great sense of inferiority even though she was unable to make it to the chunin exam finals. Her boyfriend was nearby and had the power to alter the landscape so drastically that Jiraiya of the Sannin was left speechless. She felt Naruto lose his transformation just as she was about to leave the village. She was startled by the abrupt shift in chakra, which briefly interfered with her chakra suppression. When she heard what Naruto had to say next, she went pale. Shit, Hinata. Naruto was looking up at her with concerned eyes when she turned around. I think I'd better return to the village because he probably doesn't want to see me anymore. He must be angry with me for spying on him. She started to rush back to the village while crying, leaving Naruto stunned. Naruto is back. How much did she see? Shit. She said, what am I going to do, Kurama? How am I supposed to know? She is not my girlfriend, she is yours. But you should go after her if you want some advice. She will become more agitated the longer she has to consider this. Whoa, Kurama, I had no idea you were an expert in relationships. Did you forget that I had 2 female containers at first? Yes, I did have the misfortune of having to watch both of them go through relationships that ended rather badly. I consider myself somewhat of an authority on these topics, but she's leaving, so you'd better move quickly. Still a little taken aback by his previous performance, Naruto turned to face Jiraiya. Sorry Ero Sennin, I gotta go. I'll find you tomorrow and we can continue where we left off. Before he even nodded, Naruto completely lowered his body's gravity seals and took off with several of his gates open. He was able to move more quickly than Guy. In a split second he arrived at Hinata, who was just about to re-enter the village. In less than a minute he caught up to her before she could get to the gates. Her attempt to escape the embrace was thwarted when he swiftly moved behind her and embraced her tightly in order to avoid accidentally squeezing Hinata too hard. He replenished his chakra in his gravity seals. She stopped resisting his embrace after a minute or two, and he relaxed his hold. She pivoted to confront him. Her eyes were swollen, and Naruto felt like a piece of scum for causing her to cry. Naruto moved forward and gave her another embrace. I'm sorry Hina-chan, I'm not sure how much of that you saw or heard, but I should have told you a while back. The only reason I held off is because I didn't know if you would be scared of me when you saw what I was capable of, and I couldn't bear the thought of losing you. Hinata started to cry more, but this time she was crying because she felt foolish for ever believing Naruto would find her weak. When Naruto placed his chin on top of her head, he saw that it was getting late. How about this, let's go back to my apartment so I can cook us something for dinner. After that I will tell you everything from beginning to end and I'll answer any questions you have. Does that sound good? Despite Hinata's silence, Naruto could sense her nodding her head beneath as the two of them entered the village. After he silently took her hand, Naruto's apartment was only a short walk away, but the silence between them made the trip seem unnaturally drawn out. Naruto quickly prepared dinner once they arrived, and the two of them ate in comparatively quiet conditions. Before long, they were facing one another while seated on Naruto's couch. Well, I guess I should begin with my name. My real name, I am Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto, Genin of Konohagakure and Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. My father was Minato Namikaze and my mother was Kushina Uzumaki, who was the former host of the Kyuubi. Naruto then proceeded to describe his birth and Obito's attempt to destroy Konoha by gaining possession of Kurama. When Hinata reached the part about how his parents gave their lives to save their newborn son, he started crying. He continued by talking about his previous life, including how he was raised with the animosity of the village, how he stopped Mizuki from betraying the village, and how he had arguments with Zabuza and Haku. He then started to recount the chunin exam events in great detail, and when he told Hinata about Sarutobi's funeral, a sad expression appeared in her eye. In an attempt to persuade Tsunade to return to the leaf as the Godem Hokage, he then shared his stories with Jiraiya. Then he explained to her how Sasuke left Konoha and how they ended up fighting. She sobbed despite his attempts to keep the specifics of his injuries from her. He then discussed his training trip with Jiraiya and how he was genuinely content with his godfather. However, after he got back to Konoha, the narrative started to take a more sinister turn. He described the conflicts between the Akatsuki and Pain, and how none of the fighters, including his sensei Jiraiya, lived to defeat them. The war against Madara and Obito followed. He told her about everyone's deaths during the conflict, but he kept most of the graphic details to himself. Naruto took Hinata's hand and led her out to his balcony, saying, "This next part will explain how I managed to come back." Naruto turned, his gaze meeting Hinata's. "Do you remember back in the academy when Iruka was telling us about those things out in space called black holes or wormholes?" She arched an eyebrow. "I do, but what does that have to do with your story?" Grinning, Naruto directed a tiny bit of chakra into the surrounding air. Juryoku Ketsuro, gravity condensation. Hinata's eyes conveyed to Naruto her fear as the air around them suddenly became heavier, as though they were breathing through a straw because he didn't want to frighten Hinata any more than she was already. Naruto only maintained it for a brief moment before releasing the jutsu. He went on after Hinata had calmed down a little. "That was how I came back. I condensed the space around us, and in turn that condensed the air, which made it harder for us to breathe. That was in a broad area with only a little bit of chakra, but if I focused on a specific point and used a whole lot more chakra, well." At that moment, he focused, and a tiny bubble appeared before Naruto's face. Naruto gently took Hinata's hand as she reached to touch it. "You shouldn't do that, Hinata. If it explodes we would get seriously hurt right now. This bubble has the compressed air from around my apartment, though I was careful to leave enough for us to breathe easy enough. I'll show you when it's released all at once." When Naruto raised his hand, the bubble shot skyward, and a few seconds later, the air burst into a huge shockwave that exploded outwards all at once. Hinata lowered her face to gaze at Naruto as he put his hands beneath her chin. "I used all my chakra to compress the space in front of me to make it dense enough for it to literally rip time itself, and I threw myself into it, thinking that any other time in history would be better than what I would have faced in my own time. To my eternal thanks to whatever deity exists, I got a second chance to save this world from destruction. Not to mention I got to grow up with the most beautiful woman in the entire world, again." Hinata threw her hands around Naruto and pulled him down to her face, where her lips were waiting, as if the last part was exactly what she needed to hear. After a brief moment of hesitation, Naruto wrapped his hands around Hinata's waist and squeezed her in an attempt to intensify their kiss. Although Naruto was unsure of who initiated it, Hinata's tongue eventually found its way into his mouth, and Naruto was relieved that Hinata was no longer upset. They continued to make out for a few more minutes before they both ended the call. After bringing her back inside, Naruto used a basic Doton jutsu to light a small fire in his fireplace that he had created a long time ago. They just enjoyed each other's company as they lay down on his couch and cuddled. For several more minutes, they remained in that position until Hinata raised her head to gaze at Naruto's face. "Tell me, when was it that you began to first fall in love with me? You know, back in the well, I guess it would be your past?" Naruto grinned. "It happened soon after I fought the supposed leader of Akatsuki, Pain. He had a dojutsu known as the Rinnegan, and with that power he was able to split his power into 6 different bodies. With my mastery of Senjutsu chakra I was able to defeat 5 of them, but the last of the Paths of Pain was far stronger than the rest. With gravity jutsus he was able to slam me into the ground when I lost my Senjutsu chakra. He then shoved chakra poles through both my hands to pin me down, then impaled several more throughout my body to hold me down and force his chakra into my system to control me." Hinata appeared on the verge of tears. That's horrible. Why did so many bad things have to happen to you? What happened after? Did he get you?" A tear started to form on Naruto's face, which she wiped away. "He would have, since he was shoving so much chakra into my system. When I was just about to give up hope, you came to my rescue. You fought Pain with absolutely no hope of winning. And that was when you first told me how you felt about me. I was in too much pain to process it correctly at the time, but later on I was able to realize that I felt just as strongly about you, or at least I wanted to." After giving a positive response, Hinata raised an eyebrow. "If I didn't beat him, then who saved you?" Naruto smiled a little. "Well, after he hurt you, I got so angry that I tore up half of Konoha to chase the bastard around and beat the hell out of him. No one hurts you, Hinata, no one." With Naruto's head resting on hers, Hinata pressed her head deeper into his neck. The two fell into a very sound sleep shortly after. The following day, because of Hinata's weight on his body, Naruto woke up with several of his limbs still asleep before doing a kawarimi with a big pillow to avoid waking Hinata. He gave a little laugh. Unsurprisingly, he discovered the man leering outside the bathhouses once more when he hurried out the door to meet Jiraiya and continue their conversation from the other day. A crowd of women stormed out and beat the living daylights out of the white-haired man as Naruto stopped just short of the establishment. "It seems like this guy never learns." He headed to the Sanin after the beating was over. "Hey there, Ero Senin. Having fun, are we?" Jiraiya brushed the dirt from his clothes and got to his feet. For your information, I was doing research, and stop calling me that. Naruto gave an eye roll. Yeah, anyway, tell me more about this Fuinjutsu. Chakra Kurenjingashiru. Naruto followed closely behind Jiraiya as she started to walk towards a training ground. I already told you how it works. The tricky part would be getting the seal down. It's usually done on the abdomen, but I don't think that is possible in your current condition. Naruto laughed. Are you serious, Ero Sennin? Did you forget everything about yesterday? Kurama is a part of me now, so the seal is more or less just for show now. It doesn't really do anything anymore, so I can have this seal overlap Kurama's seal. Feeling foolish, Jiraiya slapped his forehead. Right. It didn't take the too long to get to the training ground. Jiraiya spent the majority of the trip questioning Naruto about his past, and he was extremely touched to learn that his student had decided to break the cycle of animosity within the shinobi system. As soon as they arrived at their destination, they promptly set up security seals to keep any unwanted guests from coming across them. It took a little over 30 minutes to complete. After Jiraiya was done, he gestured for Naruto to join him on a level patch of grass. Now, I want you to remove your shirt so I can draw the initial seal on your abdomen. When we are finished, you will have to first move your chakra to the seal in order to purify it so you can use it for the other various elements. From what you told me, it should be similar to how you harness Kurama's chakra, so this shouldn't set you back too far in terms of training. Naruto followed instructions after nodding. An hour later, Naruto's entire front side, from beneath his navel to just below his neck, was painted with an intricate array. When he started the process, Jiraiya was relieved that Naruto knew how to use Fuinjutsu and didn't need to explain that the array would condense. Jiraiya finished by placing his fingers over each of the kanji that surrounded Naruto's original seal for Kurama in a circle. Ready? Jiraiya started pumping chakra into the seal. After Naruto nodded, Naruto's seal was surrounded by markings as the array gradually started to glow, as if the kanji were absorbing the ink. It seemed as though Naruto's whole body was on fire. He gritted his teeth and suppressed his screams, even though it was the most agony he had experienced since he battled pain. Although the procedure lasted less than a minute, Naruto thought it went on forever. When the ordeal was finally over, Jiraiya got back up and dabbed at his perspiration. Phew, that took more out of me than I thought it would. Oi, you okay, kid? Naruto got up on unsteady legs after the pain passed. Yeah, I'm fine, just give me a minute. Hello, Kurama, please look for any harmful side effects from the seal on my chakra coils. Alright, wait a minute. From what I understand, everything went off flawlessly, but you should give it a try to see if it performs as well as we had hoped. Naruto gave a mental nod. The Sannin, who was more than a little wary of the boy, did not object when he used his right hand to signal Jiraiya to step back a few feet. Naruto brought his hands together in a rush of hand seals after focusing his chakra on the seal for a few seconds. Yoden. Sokanashi Yogan Pito. Lava release. Bottomless lava pit. A tremendous amount of lava was sprayed by Naruto, covering the entire training area. It took several minutes for the viscous substance to spread out, and Naruto observed that the jutsu itself required 15 to 20 times less chakra than usual. Naruto turned to the Toad Sannin and grinned broadly. Ero Sennin, it worked, this is incredible. Jiraiya scratched his head and sighed. Well, Naruto, tell me now that you are probably one of the strongest ninja in the entire world. What are your plans? What is it you want to do? Naruto gave Jiraiya an insane look. What kind of question is that? I'm going to become Hokage, of course. Then as Hokage I will bring peace to this world and end the cycle of hatred that rules the shinobi world, and as Hokage I will outlaw all your dirty porno books, Ero Sennin. Jiraiya appeared nervous for a moment before he burst out laughing, and Naruto followed suit. After 3 weeks the other finalists were waiting for their matches to be called, so Naruto went upstairs to join them. The Hokage's speech about how the chunin exams brought prestige and peace to all shinobi and their villages was being heard by Naruto as he walked. As Hiruzen's speech was coming to an end, Naruto arrived at the top and turned to face the other ninja in the finalists' box. After giving Naruto a quick nod, the three Suna siblings looked at the stadium floor where the proctor was starting to move toward the center. Naruto noticed Neji grinning broadly as he glared at him from behind. After giving Neji the bird and grinning for a short while, Naruto felt a hand resting on his shoulder. Sasuke was standing behind him when he turned to look back. Sasuke gave a headshake. Save it for the match, Naruto. Even if he starts something, you could both be disqualified for fighting outside the match rules. Naruto laughed. Yeah, I guess you're right. I just hope we get to fight each other. Haku emerged ahead of the two. Your wish just might be granted. When the proctor called out his and Neji's names, Naruto grinned and strained his ears. When the first match was announced, the crowd erupted. Many were just thrilled that the Hyuga genius was going to beat the demon. Of Konoha to a pulp, there were still plenty of shinobi in the crowd who wanted Naruto to get what he deserved, even though the general public detested the blonde Jinchuriki far more than the shinobi. Naruto had once harbored animosity toward a few of the villagers, but as he gained notoriety, particularly following the battle with Pain, he gradually gained acceptance from everyone. He wouldn't trade the joy he experienced when he was heralded as a hero and the Leaf's savior for anything, and he eagerly anticipated experiencing it once more. Within the cage's box, though for different reasons, the Hokage and the K's cage were both excitedly awaiting the start of the finals in order to ensure that Orochimaru was unaware of what was about to happen to him. The Hokage was putting on his best poker face. The K's cage turned to the Hokage as he watched the start of the finals. It would seem that the young Uzumaki isn't well liked in this village. In fact, if I was a betting man, I would wager that almost everyone here wants the Hyuga to obliterate him. Why would that be, Hokage-sama? Hiruzen scowled. It's quite unfortunate, but it seems that the prejudices of old don't die quite so easily. But I think Naruto has changed a great many people's opinions. He has at least earned the respect of his peers and his seniors, all done through hard work and determination, mind you. Then Orochimaru laughed. I see. Well, I must admit that it would prove to be very disheartening to have to bear that kind of social stigma as a mere child. Hiruzen did not respond verbally. If only you knew, Oro. Within the arena slowly, Naruto made his way down the stairs, trying to think of a way to win while honoring his pledge to Hinata. Rewind. Hinata's first night with Naruto at his apartment was the night she found out the truth about him. Later, the two resigned themselves to dozing off in each other's arms on Naruto's couch because all she wanted was to be with him and enjoy his company. Hinata looked up at Naruto just as they were about to drift off to a blissful sleep. Naruto-kun. When he opened his eyes, a set of stunning, pale eyes greeted him. What is it, Hinaheim? Well, I just realized that you will be fighting Neji Nissan in the finals, and I'm worried for his safety. I mean, I felt how strong you were earlier, and he isn't too much stronger than I am right now. I just wanted to say that I don't want you to hurt him too much. After a brief period of eye narrowing, Naruto relaxed. You have way kinda hard to be a Hyuga. Hina-chan, even after your cousin tried to kill you in cold blood, you still are looking out for his safety. I don't know if I can. Hinata interrupted him. Promise me, please promise me, Naruto-kun. Naruto let out a sigh. Alright Hinata, I promise I won't hurt Neji, at least too much. As she started to fall asleep, Hinata slapped his chest playfully and giggled. Final flashback. With a disgusting smirk on his face, Naruto came up to his opponent after leaving the stairwell. Proctor Hayate arrived when both competitors were in the center of the arena, but it appears that he had recovered from the unpleasant cold from the preliminary round. Okay, you two, there are 2 cages here, so put on a good show. Also keep the death to a minimum. It'll make us all look bad if you just maul each other. Naruto and Neji exchanged scowls. Ready? Neji assumed his fighting stance while the proctor briefly put his hand down. Begin. He jumped away after raising his hand above his head. Neji started giggling as soon as Naruto assumed a fighting stance. You should just quit now, loser. It is nothing short of a miracle that you made it this far. I will give you credit that your seals are most impressive, but it'll take more than a few hastily made shields to defeat me. It is your fate to lose to me today, just as it is my fate to pound you into the ground to prove the Hyuga's superiority. Naruto burst out laughing. You know, Neji, as much as you preach your ideals of people being limited by fate, you sure are fighting pretty damn hard to escape yours. I wonder why that is. Maybe you just can't accept that certain things are simply out of your control in life, and so you blame it on everyone else around you and something that doesn't even exist. Neji boiled with rage. The caged bird seal on his forehead was exposed when he took off his headband. What do you know about me? You don't know anything about what I've had to go through. You don't know what it's like to be part of the branch family, to be little more than slaves to the main family's will, he said. You have no idea how it feels to live your life with a mark that will never go away. Then, Naruto did something unexpected for Neji clinging to his sides. He began to laugh uncontrollably while doing his best not to cry. Oh man, Neji, I'm sorry about that, but I just couldn't help but crack up over your little pity party. You really must have your head up your ass if you think your life is so terrible because of a little mark on your forehead. Reality check, asshole. This is a ninja village. Everyone has a dark past, so to seek vengeance on your cousin, whose only fault in life is that she cares about people too much, well, that's just sickening. Naruto let out a sigh and ran his hand through. You know, I promised Hina-chan that I would hurt you too much, but right now I'm half tempted to break that promise. Neji chuckles. Do you think I give a shit who or what that piece of trash cares about? She lost all her credibility when she began losing her spars to her younger sister, and now she is just dragging herself through the mud when she became your whore. It's a shame she is even allowed to associate with you. She may be trash, but she is still the Hyuga's heiress. For now I can only speculate that it's simply a matter of time before she is branded and thrown into the branch family to procreate. It's one of the few things she'll ever be good for. Dropping his smile, Naruto raised his hand. Come on, I will show you who the real trash is. I better end this before I lose my temper and kill you. No one, and I mean no one, insults the woman I love. With a frown, Neji charges Naruto, his Byakugan blazing to test his defense. He launches multiple Juken strikes at the blonde, aiming for all of Naruto's important locations, including Tenketsu's. Neji was shocked to find that none of his blows were making contact. Instead, he watched in unbridled rage as his opponent simply danced around his blows. Naruto was compelled to provoke, come on Neji-chan, is this really all you have? By now, Neji was feeling very angry. Shut up, now I'll kill you. Aiming for Naruto's heart, Neji leapt as quickly as he could before bringing his elbow down on Neji's arm and sending the blow harmlessly to the ground. Naruto allowed his blow to come within inches of his body. Neji felt Naruto's knee strike his jaw, sending him tumbling into the dirt. As he looked up, Naruto grabbed him by the vest and nailed him in the stomach before he could even get back up. As Naruto retreated a few paces, Neji instinctively dropped to his knees, clutching his stomach and couching heavily. Naruto's icy blue eyes gazed down at him. Get up, get the fuck up. Your punishment isn't over yet. Neji quickly struck Naruto's chest while he was still on his knees. With a broad smile, Naruto leapt backward. That's much better, Neji-chan. You almost got me with that one, but you are still a little too slow. How about you use your Hake Rokuhuion Sho, 8 trigrams 64 palms technique? I'll show you just how outclassed you are. With his arms out by his sides, Naruto approached Neji. Neji stood up unsteadily and grinned. Insolent fool, I will show you that it's your fate to remain a loser. You are within my field of divination. Neji channeled chakra to his fingertips by pressing his middle and index fingers into points. 2 strikes. He struck Naruto's arm in places that caused it to go limp. 4 strikes. He exclaimed before withdrawing the other arm. He struck Naruto's legs with 8 strikes. Causing the blonde to flinch and sway a little, he struck Naruto's shoulders, causing him to sag a little. 16 strikes. He said with the words, 32 strikes. Neji launched a volley at Naruto's abdomen. 64 strikes. He threw his attack into full swing, sending Naruto tumbling across the stadium floor with a final burst of chakra. The audience looked back and forth between the competitors in utter silence. A lot of people in the audience were curious as to why the blonde voluntarily accepted that vicious attack, which is known to kill anyone who is subjected to it. He seemed to disregard the obvious advantage that the blonde possessed. With a sly smile on his face, Neji, who was still panting from the effort, turned away from his opponent and started to make his way back to the contestant box via the stairs. The proctor moved forward a few paces. He slowly raised his hand after glancing at Naruto, who was still motionless. The winner of the first match is... Wait! Everyone gasped as Naruto slowly rose to his feet and, to their astonishment, burst out laughing. That was great, Neji-chan. Absolutely spectacular. I can't believe how much it hurts. I really wasn't expecting that much pain, but it would seem that it just wasn't enough. Neji had stopped walking, but he still had his back to us. I commend your efforts, loser, but it would be in your best interest to forfeit. I sealed all of your tenketsus and you can't mold any chakra. If this fight drags out any further, I will kill you. Naruto chuckled once more. Incorrect, Neji-chan. What you should have said is that I can't mold my chakra. Your technique has no effect on outside sources of chakra. Neji turned around, looking perplexed. What are you blabbering about, loser? Taking his shirt, Naruto channeled chakra to his seal while laughing. The older shinobi generations were quite anxious, particularly the Hokage. Although they were unsure of Naruto's strategy, they were certain that it involved the Kyuubi, and they had no intention of allowing this genin to let its full rage out in the middle of the village. Even Kurama was reluctant to allow Naruto to carry out his scheme. Naruto, what are you doing? If you go on, you will announce to everyone here that you are a Jinchuriki. Yeah, I know, Kurama, this is probably pretty dumb, but I'm going to just go with it and show the village here that I can be the hero of the leaf again, because I hate having to hide in the shadows. I hope they respond favorably. Many of the village's elder residents became enraged and glared at the boy as soon as the seal was revealed, ignoring them. Naruto spoke louder so that everyone in the crowd could hear him. This here on my stomach is the Shikifujin, corpse demon seal. It was placed on me by my father several hours after I was born. This same man sacrificed his life for the creation of this seal and the protection of this village. This is the very seal that holds the Kyuubi no Yoko inside my gut. Naruto waited a short while for a few shinobi to comprehend his words. Then he looked at Neji, who who had gone completely white. Naruto continued to speak while smiling. I can see that several of you have just figured it out, but for those of you who didn't let me explain, I am Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, son of Minato Namikaze, Yandaime Hokage, and Kushina Uzumaki, heiress of Whirlpool. I am also Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune, strongest of the 9 Biju, and this is his power. Abruptly, Naruto started directing Kurama's chakra around himself, changing into a vivid orange in front of everyone. The sensors had to brace themselves against the pure energy that blasted them, leaving their heads spinning, and many of the spectators had to shield their eyes from the intense light that was shining throughout the stadium. The person they had all mistreated as children was bringing to life the worst nightmare they could have ever imagined, and everyone else was just watching in unadulterated horror. Some were unable to handle it and immediately passed out, while others raised their weapons in readiness to sacrifice themselves to halt the raging beast. However, they were all shocked by what they saw when they turned to face the arena floor once more. They were anticipating a monstrosity that exuded hate and malice. A creature from hell. They perceived what appeared to be an angelic form, gleaming with the sun's radiance and exuding a sense of safety and life. A billowing golden cloak of chakra rested on a black shirt with a bright swirl across the abdomen, and the blonde below was enveloped in a golden glow along with his golden sandals. His pants turned the same shade of gold as the rest of his body. It seemed as though Naruto exuded an aura that strangely made the spectators in the stands happy. It seemed as though he simply exuded a natural energy in that form, giving everyone hope. In the fighter's box in the stands, everyone who believed they knew Naruto was shocked by what they saw. The dead last member of their graduating class recently revealed that he was the late Hokage's son and that he was in possession of the very thing that killed him. Beside her, a startled Ino turned to Sakura. "BB, but how did you know about his parents? Did he ever show anything like this before?" Sakura continued to stare down at her luminous teammate. "No, I mean, I knew he was stronger than he let on, but nothing like this. It's just breathtaking." Gaara's eyes were wide and staring. "So, this is the result of a full connection with your Biju. I have so much further to go." With Kiba as far away from her as possible, Hinata was seated with her team. Although Kiba had calmed down considerably after Naruto beat him to death, he still occasionally gazed at Hinata with ravenous eyes, which Naruto assured her he would promptly fix. Hinata glanced around at the trembling faces of everyone, but Shino's was as expressionless as ever, and they were all fixated on Naruto. She was certain that she could see a number of girls in the crowd licking their lips at the newest bachelor who was the most eligible. Although the new Hinata was aware that Naruto would never reciprocate their affections, the old Hinata might have felt threatened. She was going to make sure that everyone knew he was taken, and if it meant breaking a few bones to make sure of it, then so be it. She was determined not to let it come to that. She turned back to face her true love. "Please, Naruto-kun, I want you to stop getting hurt, so I hope you know what you're doing." Within the cage box, the Hokage grinned as he turned to face the Kazekage. "Well, Kazekage-sama, it would seem that this battle has taken a most unexpected turn, wouldn't you agree?" The Kazekage's gaze remained fixed on Naruto. "Why yes, it would seem you are correct to think that Minato had a son." As he nodded, Hiruzen grinned and looked around at the Anbu. The Kazekage's guards were abruptly knocked unconscious by swift blows to the back of their heads from the nearest Anbu. Hiruzen raised his fingers to shape chakra during this time, and the Kazekage's chair abruptly burst into light. Unfortunately for Orochimaru, he briefly let his guard down because he was too preoccupied with the demonstration of raw power in the stadium below. When he finally regained consciousness, it was too late, and he witnessed his two guards become incapacitated. He attempted to get to his feet but was unable to do so. He noticed seals crawling all over his body when he looked down. He turned to see the Hokage smiling at him. "What did you do to me? This is declaring war against Suna." The Hokage returned his focus to the fight. He glanced at Orochimaru and laughed at the glare he was getting. How about we just watch the match now, Orochimaru?" Those seals all over your body were a special mix of seals created by Naruto. Granted, I'm not much of a seal master myself, so I don't know the details, but he explained it something like this. The initial seal is a special kind gravity seal that targets the calcium ions in the bones of the person the seals placed are on, increasing the bone's density exponentially with each seal applied. According to him, the seals feed off the chakra of the prisoner and strengthen themselves accordingly, so the stronger the person, the stronger the seal. As you can imagine, this does wonders for holding certain high-strength prisoners without the risk of muscular damage associated with regular gravity seals. I must say, Naruto has really outdone himself this time. Hiruzen turned to face Orochimaru's Anbu. "And you have done well in proving your loyalty, and now I officially recognize you as Anbu Captain, Zabuza." The Anbu removed his mask and gave the Hokage a sly smile. "Thank you, Hokage-sama. I promise that I won't let you down. Orochimaru burst into laughter. If you think this pathetic array of seals can hold me, then you are horribly mistaken. All I have to do is channel enough chakra into these seals and they will break like wet paper. Leaning back in his chair, Hiruzen watched the match with a smile on his face. You are more than welcome to try, though I wouldn't suggest it. By now, Orochimaru was furious. Who does that elderly jerk believe he is? When he is looking death in the face, how can he appear so composed? In any case, I'll get out of here and take that smile off his fucking face. Unfortunately, he started to feel a tingling sensation throughout his body as he started to channel chakra into the seal to break it. He discovered that the tingling had been replaced by pain throughout his body as he started channeling more and more chakra. The more he channeled, the worse the pain got. He had to stop after a few conceded seconds when he started to perspire and breathe heavily. He turned his gaze to the Hokage. Pant, what did you pant do to pant me? Hiruzen gave a snort. I told you not to, Oro-chan. It's your fault for not listening. As for what it is, well, you can also thank Naruto for that. He tweaked the gravity seal's makeup slightly to take any chakra channeled into the seal in an attempt to break it to be redirected through the person's nervous system and puts pressure on the nerves throughout the body, and the human body's threshold for pain is much lower than what is required to break the seal. Hiruzen noticed Orochimaru's eyes enlarge as he turned to face him. Now be good, Oro-chan, and let's watch the finals play out while your sound shinobi are taken care of. Orochimaru was perspiring once more. Yes, I heard all about your little plan from the Kage's children. Rewind. Following the preliminary stages, Naruto went in search of Gaara and his siblings. Only a month remained to fully foil Orochimaru's scheme, and telling the Hokage was the first step. After everything was explained, Naruto was sure the Hokage would be sympathetic and grant the Suna shinobi clemency. At least that was his hope. After discovering the three in their hotel room, Naruto sneaked in through the window. Geez, you guys don't get out at all, do you? All three leapt into defensive stances. Naruto raised his hands in a gesture of surrender. Whoa guys, calm down, it's just me. Gaara soon calmed down and approached Naruto. Forgive our skittish nature, but Orochimaru has spies all over, and I have fears about what might happen to my family should he learn of our betrayal. Temari and Kankuro exchanged shocked glances. They all had the same thought. Did Gaara just acknowledge that we were his family? Naruto gave his head a back rub. No harm done. You have people to protect, so it's understandable, but there's another reason I came here. It's time for us to bring the Hokage into the loop about Orochimaru Tomi's invasion. So I need you three to come with me. I already have a clone in his office waiting for us. Just come close so I can place my hand on Gaara's shoulder and you two place your hands on Gaara's back. I'll take care of the rest. Gaara gave a nod and proceeded. Exactly as Naruto had instructed. Gaara had obviously fallen deeply and totally in love with the blonde. After a short while, he turned to face his siblings, who were still standing motionless. He raised one eyebrow. Well? The two hurried forward to touch Gaara's back as if they had just been jolted out of a trance. Gaara turned to face Naruto again. Sorry about that, they're still a little hesitant to trust you, or me for that matter. Naruto gave a small laugh. Seriously, don't worry about it, I earned your trust. Now I will have to earn theirs too, and don't worry, they'll come around. Gaara's shoulder was touched by Naruto. Ready? He asked, grinning after three nods. Hold on tight. Hiraishin no Jutsu. Flying Thunder God technique. In the Hokage Tower, Naruto sent a Kage Bunshin to alert the Hokage to his approach. A few minutes prior to his meeting with Gaara, Naruto stormed into the Hokage's office following a furious argument with the Hokage's secretary before the Hokage tossed the orange book into one of his desk's drawers. Naruto caught a fleeting glimpse of it on his desk. After standing up straight, the Hokage greeted Naruto. Hello Naruto, what is the reason you have intruded in my office while I was in the midst of paperwork? After laughing at the Hokage's humiliation, Naruto shut his office door. He applied a noise-canceling seal to the walls and door after it was closed. Sorry GG, but I'm just a Bunshin boss has something he has to tell you, and it's imperative to the survival of the village that you hear him out. Hiruzen's expression darkened. If Naruto believes that this matter is important to the village's security, then of course I will hear what he has to say. The Bunshin gave a grin. Good, cause he should be here right about. Naruto and three others materialized in front of the Hokage in a burst of dazzling yellow light before dismissing himself. The Hokage was waved at by the Kage Bunshin. The actual Naruto appeared. Hey there GG, how've you been? The Hokage gave Naruto a wary glance before shifting his attention to the trio behind him. I'm well Naruto. Thank you for your concern. If I may ask, why have you brought the Kage's children here? To everyone's surprise, Gaara was the next to speak. Forgive our intrusion Hokage-sama, my name is Sabaku no Gaara. youngest of the Kazukage's children and Jinchuriki for Shukaku. The one-tailed Biju, we are here to inform you of a plot between Orochimaru and my father to attack Konoha. Naruto sighed and placed a hand on Gaara's shoulder before the Hokage had a chance to comprehend what had been said. GG, we need to talk. They all discussed the upcoming attack for the next 3 hours. Gaara was shocked to learn that Orochimaru had killed the Kazekage and had replaced him in order to gain proximity to the Hokage. It appears that Gaara didn't say anything earlier because she didn't care. It served as a sobering reminder to Temari and Kankuro that, prior to Naruto winning his lifelong friendship, Gaara was a very cold person, which made him act a little more human. In order to ensure that Suna's strike team would not take part in the attack, Gaara decided to covertly get in touch with them during the meeting. He did not specify how he would carry out this mission, but he promised Naruto and the Hokage that he would ensure that there were no Suna shinobi present other than those in the test. Luckily for Hiruzen, Naruto had already developed a number of seals to deal with the traitor and had long since prepared for the time when he would have to deal with Orochimaru. He only instructed Hiruzen to sit back and take in the spectacle after channeling some chakra into the Kazukage's chair during the finals. Final flashback as he watched Orochimaru's face morph in rage. Sarutobi laughed to himself. If he looked closely enough, he could definitely see a tiny bit of fear in his former pupil's eyes. When Zabuza spoke about the scene below them, he was startled out of his thoughts. Zabuza opened a storage scroll and took out Kabikirabocho. So Hokage-sama, do you think the Hyuga has a chance? At his query, Sarutobi chuckled, not a snowball's chance in hell. Returning to the arena, Naruto looked at everyone's faces after allowing them to recover from the initial shock. For a few seconds Naruto observed the range of emotions in the crowd and even saw some of the Chunin preparing to defeat him if needed. He raised his hand to the crowd. I know that many of you may be reluctant to put your faith in me, but listen, people of Konoha. Don't be afraid, I have complete control of the Kyuubi's power right now. Long ago, I battled the Kyuubi and managed to wrest control of his power from him. Shortly afterward, I managed to mellow out his personality, and now he has become my ally and friend. We both promise to do everything in our power to serve and protect this village and its people from any and all danger. But know this. Here and now I swear on my blood and the blood of my parents to lay down my life and bring peace to our village and the world. Hanging his head, Naruto awaited the torrent of insults he was certain were coming his way. There was complete silence for what felt like an eternity, and Naruto was about to scold himself when he heard it. At first, there was hardly any sound, just a muffled sound. Others started to join in gradually, and after a minute, the stadium erupted in roaring applause. Naruto couldn't help but shed a tiny tear as he turned to face the audience again. Once more, he had won the respect of all Konoha residents, although a sizable portion of people still had a disgusted expression on their faces. Those who had already accepted Naruto were greatly outnumbered by those who hadn't, and he could always win them over in the upcoming years. His opponent was just emerging from the shock of what he was witnessing, and Naruto was angry that he was so easily forgotten, but he was too engrossed in the moment to give a damn. This loser believes he is so powerful and superior. I'll demonstrate to them all that he cannot alter fate. Pulling his palm back, Neji lunged at Naruto's back, tearing his heart to pieces through his ass. It took him only a few seconds to cover this distance. With his arm cocked back, he hit Naruto directly behind the heart. In the stands, Hinata was trembling with rage. And Neji, not only does he humiliate me, but now he attacks my Naru-kun in the back. The amount of anger radiating from the normally shy Kunoichi at the moment was making everyone around her uneasy. She had never been seen this way before, but then again, no one had ever been able to hit her so deeply. The pinkette next to Hinata prodded her side to get her attention again because she was so furious that she had stopped watching the fight. Although Hinata didn't know why Sakura was staring at the scene below with wide eyes, she followed her gaze and also became wide-eyed. She saw below as a hand composed entirely of golden chakra caught Neji's palm. Hinata's eyes filled with tears. Please don't frighten me like that, Naru-kun. Returning to the stadium, Neji was lifted up and thrown onto his back by the chakra hand. Naruto turned face to face, his eyes icy. So, this is how the great prodigy of the Hyuga clan acts in the face of defeat. How shameful. I'm sure your father would be disappointed in you. Naruto wanted Neji to be as furious as possible, even though he knew it was a cheap shot. In a blind rage, Neji got up and charged Naruto. He threw strike after strike at all of Naruto's important points, but while he was provoking Neji, Naruto simply appeared to dance around him like he was a child in a fit of rage. Neji used every tool in his toolbox on the blonde for several minutes, but all he was able to do was exhaust all of his remaining energy trying to think of a way to bring Naruto down. Neji collapsed to his knees. Panting, he was too exhausted to see Naruto vanish in a burst of yellow, and when he regained consciousness, Naruto was standing in front of him, holding Neji's Hite 8. Neji's face was filled with rage as she looked up. What do you think you're doing? You dare show my shame to the entirety of Konoha? After shaking his hand, Naruto took a tiny piece of paper from his pocket. No, Neji, I removed your Hite 8 to free you from your shame. Naruto slapped the paper over Neji's seal and started shaping chakra. Before Neji could reply, the young Hyuga felt the alien chakra pulsing through his body, and the next thing he knew, he was looking up at the blonde with a blank expression. Even though the entire process took less than a minute, the Hyuga elders in particular were on edge. Naruto dropped his chakra cloak as soon as he took his hand off Neji's forehead and turned to leave, heading for the stairs. Neji, who was still very conscious, fell face first into the dirt as soon as Naruto's support left him. A few meters from Neji, Naruto stopped. You know, coming here today, I didn't know if I would kill you or not. In fact, had it not been for Hinata-chan making me promise not to, I probably would have. She made me remember that as much of a bastard you are still her cousin, and I couldn't take you away from her, so for her, I removed your seal. You'd better thank her, because I can just as easily put the damn thing back on. Naruto proceeded to the stairs in order to reunite with the other competitors. Hayate made his way to the arena's center. Hyuga Neji is unable to continue. Uzumaki Naruto is the victor. When the young blonde won, there was an enormous chorus of cheers and shouts of excitement. When Naruto arrived at the contestants' balcony, he was given a big berth. Even people he thought of as his friends were staring at him oddly, and nobody seemed to want to approach him. Ironically, Gaara was the one who smiled as he spoke to him for the first time. Congratulations on your fight, Uzumaki-san. That was most definitely a hard-won victory, or I guess it would be Namikaze-san. Which would you prefer? With a laugh, Naruto gave Gaara a quick tap on the shoulder. I never pegged you for one to make jokes, but to you it's just Naruto. Naruto turned to face the other genin who were all staring at him. He looked bewildered and rubbed his mouth. What? There's something on my face, isn't there? Everybody's face dropped at his casual demeanor. With a sly smile, Shikamaru shook his head. Troublesome blonde. Naruto chuckled briefly before realizing Sasuke was still gone. I wish he was here. Damn it, I wish I could have seen his face. Lee put on his good guy stance and walked up to Naruto, grinning broadly. Yash Naruto. I find myself filled to the brim with excitement at the prospect of possibly having such a strong opponent such as you. His head was scratched by Naruto. Thanks Lee, I look forward to maybe fighting you also, I guess. Hayate called the next match before anyone else could speak. Will Haku and Kankuro please make their way to the arena floor to begin the second match? Kankuro glanced at Gaara, who nodded. Show them all what a puppet master of Suna can do, Ni-san. Before jumping down into the arena, Kankuro gave Gaara a brotherly hug and a smile. Naruto merely observed with a chuckle. It's amazing what a little rest and sleep can do for a person. Perhaps I didn't need to hit Gaara at all actually. After he took that nap, he started acting very friendly and amiable, and Shukaku emerged. Perhaps it was all the nap. When Naruto was tackled from behind and sent crashing to the ground, he was startled out of his reverie. A familiar mop of blue hair was on his chest when he turned around. You know, Hinaheim, I think it's only fair you give me a heads up before you mount me. I mean, I'm all for it, but I think that it's just a tad too public. She eeped and buried her face in Naruto's neck, while he simply laughed and kissed the top of her head. Whatever she was about to say vanished from her mind and was replaced by embarrassment. The arena floor. Kankuro was immediately put on the defensive after the match started, evading wave after wave of ice and metal senbon. Kankuro dodged another volley by leaping back. Is that all you can do? I would think a friend of Naruto would be much more than this. Haku grinned. I thought that since you were a puppet master, you would have neglected your taijutsu and therefore I would be able to strike key areas with long range, but it appears that you're much too skilled for my tactic to work. The boy merely chuckled. When you live with a hormonal teenage sister and a brother that is scarier than killer clowns under the bed, you make sure you know how to dodge. With a shrug, Haku removed a number of the water skins he had been holding. He went through a rush of hand seals when he opened them. Hyaden. Makio Hyosho, ice release, demonic mirroring ice crystals. Haku's image started to appear on all the other mirrors as he melted into it. Ever since Naruto defeated my technique back on that bridge, I've been training my speed with this technique. I can't say it's an undefeatable technique, but I think that with it, I'll be the victor of this match. With a muttered curse, Kankuro unfolded a scroll that bore the kanji for, brother, I wanted to save this for the later rounds, but it looks like I have to do this early. He smeared the scroll with a thin coating of blood after biting his thumb. A puppet with blood-red hair, pale skin, black circles around his eyes, and the kanji for love on his forehead materialized in a puff of smoke. Every genin, with the exception of Gaara, Temari, and Naruto, was staring back and forth between the lifelike depiction of Gaara below and the real Gaara. It was difficult to determine which was the real one. Kankuro grinned. I've had a lot of free time this past month, and I just so happened to bring my puppet-making supplies with me, and Gaara was just nice enough to let me infuse a bit of his sand and chakra with this puppet like you. I can't say that I've completely mastered using Gaara's techniques, but with it, I'll be the victor of this match. Haku simply grinned and started shooting projectiles at his opponent once more, but his smile quickly vanished when the sand controlled by the Gaara puppet stopped each projectile. Although Kankuro's strings and chakra were obviously used to control the defensive sand, it didn't appear to be having much of an impact. Haku winced as a lot of sand covered the mirror he was in, and he barely managed to leap out of it before hearing words that brought back too many memories of the preliminary matches. Ningyo Geki no Shuho. Sabaku Q. Puppetry technique. Sand binding coffin. Haku saw a smirk appear on Kankuro's face as the sand spread out and covered a number of other mirrors. Ningyo Geki no Shuho. Sabaku Soso. Puppetry technique. Sand waterfall funeral. In an instant, more than half of the mirrors Haku had made were shattered, and the Haiden user was forced to utter a few brief curses. Damn it, I have no chance of winning if I can't figure out how to stop that puppet. I must somehow render it immobile. Hold on. That's it. Hand signs flashed as Haku fell out of the mirror. Sweden. Mizu Kirasame, water style, water drizzle. The stadium was immediately covered in a thin sheen of water as the mirrors instantly melted and a little mist started to form. A little too late to stop her, Kankuro's eyes widened as he witnessed Haku's plan in action. It appears that I will not be able to use Ani, my brother, for some time. Additionally, it appears that I will either be unable to use Kuroari, Black Ant, or Karasu, Crow, or he will simply do the same thing. It's taijutsu. Fortunately, he appears exhausted. As he watched Kankuro reseal his puppet in the sand with it, Haku grinned, but his smile vanished as the puppeteer charged at him. How come he's pursuing taijutsu? Haku blocked a forceful blow from his opponent by raising his arms in a crossed position. He was unable to see or stop the kick that struck his side, which sent him rolling across the stadium floor and onto his back, because his vision was obstructed behind his arms. He tried to sit up after he stopped rolling, but was stopped when he felt a kunai's cold smoothness at his throat. When Haku realized he had lost, a drop of sweat trickled down his face. In order to be heard throughout the stadium, Hayate raised his voice. Winner. Kankuro of Suna. A chorus of applause and shouts, along with a few contented nods from the seasoned shinobi, were directed towards the match's grandeur. Below, Kankuro sheathed his kunai and held out his hand to his fallen comrade, who accepted the offering. After a moment's hesitation, Haku brushed himself off and stood up again, then turned to face Kankuro. So, I was under the impression that puppeteers let their taijutsu wane as they progressed, yet you just destroyed me easily, so, forgive my language, but what the hell was that? Kankuro laughed and responded after Haku, and he both started to head for the stairs. Yeah, well, I always believed that if my puppeteering failed, I should have a backup plan. Usually I would use my puppets and coordinate my strikes with them, a truly terrifying fighting style if I may say so myself, but if I brought them out you would just freeze them up, so it was just me. I'm not gonna lie, if you were able to block that kick, I probably would have been all out of tricks, and you would have won. I just got lucky that your previous techniques were too chakra intensive, but it was still a good match. Feel free to call a rematch if you're ever in Suna. After giving Haku a pat on the back, Kankuro left the Konoha Genin below to ascend to the seats for the observers and proceeded up the stairs to return him to the contestants' box.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.